Good afternoon and welcome to a stormy, overcast, windy day in South Africa. It is really quite miserable. All of a sudden the wind has kicked up and it's starting to get quite cold, and I think we might even have a little bit of rain on the clouds. Well, in the clouds, should I say. Right, my name is Tristan. On camera I've got Viam, and it is a very warm welcome to all of you. I hope that you're going to have a wonderful afternoon as you join us through the wilds of Africa. Now remember that you can ask lots and lots of questions. You just need to ask your parents to send through the questions, and they can do that on natgeokids@wildearth.tv. And we'll try and answer as many as possible and try and get through as much as we can. Now, this afternoon, what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and kind of work along the western side of the reserve, and then we're going to head off towards the water points and see if maybe there's some elephants or some buffalo that might be drinking. And then as it gets a little bit later with this windy, overcast weather, it's going to be perfect for cats to start hunting. And so hopefully we'll start to get maybe lions or leopards moving about. So that's the plan for the afternoon. We'll hopefully be able to find something for all of you to be able to see. It is very windy, which means that often you'll find the conditions will dictate what happens and what animals are out and about. And so when we're out here looking for animals, we always try and take in what the weather is doing as to what we're going to search for. If it's very, very hot and clear skies, then you know that things like elephants and buffalo will be at water, and the cats normally are going to be fast asleep. But when it's windy like this will wake the cats up a lot earlier, and we should maybe see them starting to move. So I'm hoping that we'll get some action with them and that they will be around. I'm hoping that we'll be able to show you a beautiful leopard, or maybe even the power of the lions in a pride. That will be very nice if we can find them. They were around yesterday, so I'm hoping that they'll be around today. Now, while I go down this rather bumpy road and head off towards the nearest waterhole and try to see if I can find any big grey pachyderms, it sounds like my friend David all the way in Kenya has found them already.
Boys and girls of the Nat Geo Kids, and welcome to our afternoon safari drive all the way from Kenya. The gentleman you are talking to by the name of Tristan, he is in South Africa, and I'm sure he told you that. Will you believe now we are very far north and we're in a country called Kenya, and a very warm welcome to our drive again. And how exciting to have you starting the safari from here in the Mara Triangle with elephants. Excellent. You boys and girls are very lucky. My name is David, and on camera with me today is James. Hi, James. Yes, when James does that, this is a sign of good luck. Remember, boys and girls, we request you only one thing today for the next 1 hour, to ask us as many questions as you can through your parents, as usual. They can send us an email, natgeo@wildearth.tv. If you have any comments to make, please do, and you can do it the same. Now, we got a herd of elephants here. As you can see, they are big ones and they are small ones. Laura, you say, wow, look at those huge tusks. Yes, and elephants are known to have huge and very big tusks, and especially the males. I agree, that's a great comment. And Laura, don't go anywhere, because what I want to do is to drive forward another 1 minute, and I'll give you another better view of those same tusks. Now, I'm sure all of you are very bright kids, and you're well-traveled, or your parents are well-traveled, and they know we got different types of elephants in the world. Now here in Kenya where we are, we have what we call the African elephant. And the African elephant, both boys and girls, have those tusks that you said, wow, they are huge. And I'm going to show you again those tusks now. When I'm saying boys and girls, instead of saying boys and girls for the animals, we say males and females. There's one at the very back there. If you look, she got a very small baby, and you can look at her tusks. They're huge, massive. And look at the baby trying to get or snatch the grass the mother is eating. Nima, I'm very happy you're the first one to ask a question today. Thank you very much, and I hope your parents are doing a very good job to send questions through. Elephants, sometimes we say they live the same age like human beings. Not exactly, but Nima, they live more or less 65 years. There's some that could live 60, some 65, or a little bit more than that. But if we take, Nima, an average, I would say elephants live for about 65 years. Look at that small baby they are trying to put her trunk up. We have a belief here in Africa that when you see an elephant lifting her trunk up is always a sign of good luck. Can you imagine? So in that group that you see there, boys and girls, a group of elephants like that, you'd call that a herd of elephants. A herd of elephants, and you can tell they are eating grass, so we can either say they are vegetarians or we can say they are herbivores. In general, the boys or the males, as I said, for the animals, the boys we call the males, are slightly bit bigger in size than the females. My guess is almost all what you see here, they could be girls, so you would imagine if we would have a male here, he would be a lot bigger in size than these females you see here. And they also weigh more. When you see them flapping their ears like that, they're trying to cool off themselves. And elephants got all their blood vessels that help to cool their bodies around or in their ears. And that's why you'll notice every few minutes or seconds, they keep opening their ears out and in. It's like a fan. Open for the air to blow, just on the surface of the ear, and that helps to cool off the blood that goes round the whole body of the elephant. As I said earlier, we're in a country called Kenya, and we're in a game reserve called the Mara Triangle. So they'll keep moving like that, and sometimes as they move, they might disturb some grass, and if there'll be anything in the grass, it'll just move away because these animals are big and they're very heavy. How wonderful. Look at the calf there, just flapping her ears, see? She's definitely learning something from the mother. See that? Open, close, open, close. Not sure she's doing that for fun or cooling off, but being a small kid, you can imagine, she is also having a bit of fun opening and closing the ears. I don't think she's very hot at the moment. Now, boys and girls, I will take you all the way to South Africa for another gentleman to say hello to all of you.
Already with one of the very lovely animals. This animal has got an ability to live in water and on land. A very, very good afternoon and welcome to the beginning of the afternoon safari. My name is Sydney Pumulani Mikosi. I am with Craig, who is my camera operator this afternoon. And for kids, ask your parents to ask us questions on NetYourKids at wildearth.tv. My plan this afternoon is easy. I'll be looking for interesting animals for you. That there is quite a lot of hippopotamus here at the moment. There's a group which is on this side and others are on the other side. These animals, they are enjoying this kind of weather now because western side of the Kruger National Park, the Juma Game Reserve, where I am now is not that very hot. There is quite a lot of wind and the rain is promising. The sun is shining at the same time. So none of these hippopotamus is outside the dam at the moment, as like yesterday and day before when it was too hot. These hippopotamus, they were always out. They're just in and out. So this is one of the animals who prefers to go out for feeding purposes during the night. During the day, they don't want to expose their skin to the sun. Nima, this is one of the animals which can survive up to 30 to 35 years. So it's quite a very big animal, and they have got a very long lifespan. You can see one of the birds is right on top of the hippopotamus there. And the hippo is not worried about the presence of these birds on them. Why? Because these hippopotamus, they know very well that these birds, they are there in order to clean them. You can see some of these birds, they are picking up some of the things from the hippopotamus. They are not eating the meat from the hippopotamus. What they are doing now, they are eating the parasites. The parasites are those small things that normally feed from the animals. So these are the red-billed oxpeckers. Them and the hippopotamus, they get along because of that relationship. On the other side, the birds, they are getting these ticks as food, which is a relationship called mutualism. Living together, both species get benefit. So they are not there just for the lift. You can see now they're gone. And the hippo as well, submerged. He's happy with the job well done by the oxpeckers. So you can see now the hippopotamus, they're underwater. They can be able to go underwater for about 5 to 6 minutes and come out for breathing purposes. That one as well is gone now. So if you don't look carefully, you might even think there are no hippopotamus here by the Chitwa Dam because they're just going in and out. So now let's go to one of my colleagues. Tristan has got a lovely bird.
I do indeed. I've got a bird of prey that is trying to balance very carefully on a branch that is bouncing around in the wind. Unfortunately, it's not great conditions for birds of prey to be trying to sit on branches. They are being blown around all over the place, but there we go, it's gone a little bit further. Let's just try to get forward a bit. It is what's called an African hawk eagle. Now, African hawk eagles are fairly common in this area. It looks like a young African hawk eagle, so a juvenile, which is a baby one. It's still getting its adult coloration, but hopefully if we can get into a gap here, we should be able to see it quite nicely from about, yeah, wait, hold on, so let's go a little forward, just see, maybe there. How's that? Do we have a good, maybe a bit further forward? There we go. So it's now sitting on a much better branch where it's not being blown about nearly as much. Now, you can see that that bird has got quite interesting coloration. It's all mottled, and that's because, like I say, it's still going into its adult form, so it's still becoming a big bird, and that means that its coloration is going to change. It's going to actually start to go much darker, so it'll become more a kind of black coloration, and then it's going to get lots of little spots on its chest and around its legs. Now, these guys are birds that hunt a lot on the ground. They will chase all kinds of different other birds, particularly things like guinea fowl or francolins. Now, those are birds that are very similar to a quail or a partridge. They spend most of their time down on the ground, and these guys will then hunt them. Now, normally when you see these guys, you'll find them in pairs together when they're adults. So there'll be a mom and a dad, and they will fly around and will actually hunt with one another, which is very, very cool. So they will help each other to find food, which obviously is not that kind of well documented for a lot of other birds. A lot of other birds won't do that. They will generally hunt on their own, but I'll try and bring up a picture of an adult so that you can see what they look like. There we go, I found a picture. So this is what it's going to look like when it grows up. It's still kind of got a bit of a funny coloration, but when it grows up, it becomes a beautiful bird. You can see it gets this white on its legs, and then those black sort of spots on the chest area, black wing, and then that bright yellow eye that you see there, and the grey cere. So the one that we're looking at, I'm going to try to see if I can find, there we go, there's one that we're looking at now. This is a juvenile. You can see it's got that same kind of grey cere, white legs that we were seeing, and that mottled face, or that kind of broken up colored face that you see on that bird over there. But they are really, really beautiful eagles. And actually, funny enough, at the moment we have a mom and dad that's got a baby, but not in this area. It's quite far away, so this is not the same bird, but very cool to see. We actually saw it because it came off the ground, so at first I thought maybe it had killed something, because sometimes if you find them on the ground, they will have a bird or something that they've killed, and they can sometimes sit and actually feed off it and you can actually get quite close, but it took off quite quickly, so maybe it flew down to try and grab something and unfortunately missed it, and it was just resting for a little bit. Now, Sydney is still at Chitwa Dam, which is generally a hive of activity in the afternoons, and it sounds like he's got a toothy predator to show you.
You can see that the wind here where I am is blowing too much. You can see the movement of the top of this water at the moment that the wind is just too much. So when the wind is blowing like this, it's taking all the food towards one direction, and some of the interesting animals such as the fish, they go to the edge, and that is where they will be getting the food. But now, before we get to the edge, look at what I am having at the moment. They have got two big reptiles, the crocodiles. So this is one of the crawling animals, and they are both now lying down there with their mouth open. When the mouth of the crocodile is open like this, it's giving you a sign that this crocodile is having quite a lot of heat in the body. It's trying to now cool down the body temperature. So they are opening the mouth in order to get rid of the heat in the body. You can see also this one, the mouth is open as well. You can even see some of the teeth there showing. So these teeth that we are seeing there, they can grow, and you can find that in there is about 60 to 80 teeth. The crocodiles can have quite a lot of teeth, and sometimes from feeding activities, they get stuck some of the small pieces of food there. You will see some of the birds coming and eat when the crocodile's mouth is open, and it doesn't have a problem with those kind of birds coming to clean their teeth. It's similar kind of relationship like what we just saw earlier when the oxpeckers were cleaning the hippopotamus. Crocodiles as well, they do have some of the birds which come specifically to clean their teeth. So these crocodiles, they've got an ability to also walk outside the water. You will see they can be able to lift their body high and use their forelegs just to walk. They can travel long distances as well outside the water. So, but they spend much of their time very close to the water by the river banks and by the dam walls. So these animals, when they are lying down like this, they don't look having a fast speed, but I can promise you the crocodiles, they've got a very good speed. It's just that they cannot run much longer than 30 meters. 30 meters is a long distance for them. So they can maintain their speed at 12 kilometers per hour for just about 30 meters. So now let's go to Tristan, who's got something.
I do indeed. I've got a rather large antelope who's got two hitchhikers on it. So what you're seeing there is the back of a kudu, and there are two beautiful birds that are called red-billed oxpeckers. Now, oxpeckers are birds that help the kudu stay nice and clean. Now, normally you don't get to see them as close as this. They can kind of be quite mobile birds that run up and down the animals looking for food, and they don't sit still for very long. But because it's windy and cold, I think they're just sitting on this animal to try and get a bit of warmth. And you can see they've got those beautiful red beaks and yellow eyes, and basically what they're doing, the animal doesn't mind them being on theirs because they're helping to keep the animal clean. So they're going to be cleaning off any ticks that this kudu might get. The kudu will be, as it walks along, will be getting ticks and all kinds of other things, and will basically have a problem if it didn't have these birds, because it wouldn't be able to clean itself and make sure that it's rid of all of those parasites. So it's a very clever thing to have these birds ride along, and obviously the birds don't really hurt the kudu. They don't only do a good job, except if the kudu has a cut on it. If the kudu has a cut, well, then you'll see that it will basically end up, the oxpeckers will drink the blood from these kudu, and they'll keep the wound open as much as possible to get the blood out of it. And so a oxpecker is actually known as a seguinivore, which is basically a animal that eats blood or drinks blood, which is pretty interesting. But they're really tucked up into the thick fur of this kudu to try and stay as warm as possible. It's a really cool view, and you can see the kudu is busy feeding on the leaves of this jackalberry, which is very cool. Ziffa, you say a kudu windbreaker? Yes, a kudu jersey that they have on, or windbreaker as you call it, is a good thing to have if it's a cold, windy day. It's, I suppose, not too cold, but it's just the wind is foul, and so I suppose that stops all the wind from blowing these poor oxpeckers about. Now, this kudu theoretically doesn't really like to feed off the leaves that it's feeding off at the moment. It's busy feeding off a tree that's got quite dry leaves at the moment, but because of the time of the year and how dry it is, you can see it's very brown and not many leaves on the trees. It means that there's really not too much else to eat, and kudu don't really graze on grass, and so they have to find trees that they normally wouldn't eat to be able to find nutrients at this time of the year. So they'll be hoping that this wind is going to bring some rain so that they can be able to get some proper, nice, nutritious green leaves that will grow once the rain happens. But look at that, isn't it amazing? It's a very cool view of a kudu eating. They're one of my favorite antelope. They're the biggest antelope that we see in this part of the park, and you can see that they've got really big ears, which helps them to be able to hear. So Lara, oxpeckers, when they hang on, is not balance. It's not just them kind of sitting there and hoping that they don't fall. What they actually have is they've got a very special foot. So their foot is not the same as most other birds. They have a foot that's almost like a X shape. So it's got two toes that face forward and two toes that face back, and it basically creates almost like a grappling hook. I don't know if you know what a grappling hook is, but basically it's able to hook onto anything from the bottom or the top, and it basically grabs the kudu's fur and it clamps down, and then it can just sit there, and even when the kudu moves, the oxpecker doesn't actually have to move too much and doesn't get chased too much, which is actually very cool. So that's how they stay on. They have a little bit of a different foot shape, and it's called xylodactyl. If you have a foot shape like that, is xylodactyl, and them and owls also have that shaped foot. It's pretty cool to see. You sometimes see their tracks on the ground. You can actually see it, but there they are. Very, very cool. And all snugged up. They're staying on the side of the body where the wind isn't blowing too much, and they are very happy where they are. Amazing. And hiding behind the neck of the kudu now. It's quite strange that she's on her own. Generally, you wouldn't find a female kudu by herself. You normally find them in small groups together. Male kudu, they often are on their own, but females generally not. They like to form small little social groups, and so I'm quite surprised that there's just the one by herself. I'm pretty sure the others maybe are somewhere close by. We just can't see them at the moment. But given how open it is, I would have thought we would have seen at least one. Hello. He's just having a little sniff of us. You can see that long tongue. Look at that. Yes, James, they do. The kudus do have a lot of ticks on them like your deer. Out here, especially in the summer months when there's a bit of rain and the grass grows very long, then we can have lots and lots of ticks all over the place. And that means that you find the kudus pick them up as they walk. And so it's a big problem for them. They have to constantly groom themselves, so use their teeth to try and get rid of the ticks, as well as have things like the oxpeckers that help out with that. Now, this particular kudu has actually got a parasite on it, so something that's not a tick. It's got a different type of animal that's living on it. You see on its coat there, its coat is missing little bits of fur. So that is what we call mange. Now, mange is a little mite that lives inside the fur, and it basically feeds around the hair follicle, and so the animal gets very, very itchy, and then it will scratch a lot and it loses its fur, and that's why you're getting that patchy kind of look to the fur itself. And so it's something that comes when it's a dry season. When it's very, very dry, that's what you'll see. When it gets wet, those mites don't do as well, and so this kudu will be hoping for the summer to be able to get rid of those mange mites and to be able to get nice and clean once again. Right, well, our kudu is moving off, so I think we're going to carry on, and while we do that, let's send you back to Dave in the Mara, who's got, well, one of the biggest spectacles out in this side of Africa, and that is the form of some striped animals walking off in the distance.
You notice how lucky you are having seen big antelopes like the kudu. Now, we got different animals here, and I'm sure you can tell who they are by seeing the black and white in them. There are two different species of animals here. There's those in the background, but the ones in the front of the screen or on the foreground, In the foreground, those are the zebras. Aren't you not getting spoiled from crocodiles to hippos to elephants to kudus and now zebras? Now, I'm sure you all know horses. You must have seen horses, or some of your parents own horses, or they take you to racecourse. Now, the closest relative of the horses are these donkeys you see here. Not donkeys, sorry, zebras. Well, they are also similar to donkeys, my apologies. But when you see zebras that you see on your screen, they should remind you of the horses. They're basically in the same family. And just like horses, zebras are herbivores. They'll always eat grass, grass and grass. So boys and girls, I want to ask you a question today. The zebras that you see there on the screen, do you think they're black with white stripes or white with black stripes? Paula, I agree with you, and every time I see a donkey, sometimes I make a joke and I say a donkey is a zebra that is not painted. But that's my joke. And anytime I see a zebra, I also make another joke, and I say a zebra is a donkey that is painted. Paula, I agree with you 100%. It's a bit warm now. You notice they're not eating as much, they're just quiet. Unlike the elephants we saw earlier that were eating, zebras do not eat as much food as the elephants. The elephant eats so much. That's why even when it is very hot, they'll keep eating. But you'll notice one or two will be eating depending on how hungry they are. And now we got different type of animals. See the dark animal there? That one is called a wildebeest. A wildebeest. And I'll tell you something. Zebras and wildebeest are very good friends. More often than not, we'll always see them together. There's something very special they do, zebras and the wildebeest. They do something we call migration. And migration means, or migration is like a movement. And they move for thousands and thousands of miles for only one reason, for food. Later on, after the show today, look at the map of East Africa, and you're going to see a country called Tanzania. To the north of it, there is a national park called Serengeti. So if you look at the map of Kenya, you'll see where we are. We're in the Masai Mara Triangle. So the Serengeti National Park and the Masai Mara Triangle are next to each other. They border each other. So different conservation areas in different countries. So these animals will always move from Serengeti in Tanzania, and they come to the Mara Triangle in Kenya. And they do that all around the year. At the moment, all of them are in Kenya. They came here towards the end of July, and they might stay until maybe end of October, depending on the amount of food here, and then they'll start heading south to Serengeti National Park in Tanzania. That movement of these animals, as I said earlier, goes round and round all the year non-stop. Of course, they'll pause to eat, to drink, to rest, to sleep. Then they keep going. But in the month of February of every year, they will always stop in one particular place in Serengeti for 2 weeks to give birth to their babies. And as soon as the babies are strong and ready to walk, then they start the journey again. Can you believe that, boys and girls? That one seems to have one horn. Do you notice that? It's missing the left horn. Yes, and Lou says it's amazing. And there's so many reasons why that would happen. Maybe sometimes you have seen boys of animals, they'll always fight. But the girls in general do not fight. So I'm saying males will always fight for each other, and they use the horns to fight. And maybe in the process of fighting, accidentally, one horn gets broken. We got antelopes, where both males and females have horns. And we also got antelopes where it's only the males that have horns, and the females do not have the horns. Now, the wildebeest that we have here, both males and females have horns. But my friend sitting in South Africa have an antelope where it's only the males that have horns and not the females.
I have got a lovely impala there. You can see there's quite a lot of them carrying horns, and the one right in front, you can see that she doesn't have horns. That one is a female. The one standing here now with the horns is a male. So male carry horns and the females don't carry horns. So impalas, they are grazers. Grazers animals are the animals that eat grass, but they rarely browse. Browsers are the animals that eat leaves. They feed on both grass and leaves. When it's very dry during the dry season, they change and start feeding on leaves. So now the grass is very dry at the moment, and some of the trees as well, they are looking very, very dry at this stage. So these kind of animals are battling in order to get the fresh leaves. However, right not very far away from here where I am, I've got one of the surprising trees, one of the marula trees, very, very green, as if now we are at the summer season. Look at that. So this is what we normally see during the rainy season. By this time of the year, most of the trees are still very dry. So I wonder where this tree is getting water in order to bear the new leaves at the moment, whereas some are still waiting for the better rains to come. Looking at the weather at the moment, you can see that the rain is building and the wind is heavy. I'm not is gonna manage to win the battle, because the rain, mostly when it's windy, it doesn't come. The rain comes only when the wind is quiet, but at the moment the rain is preparing and the wind is disturbing. But hopefully maybe before the end of today we might get some little bit of showers. I can see that something is coming. The rain is preparing, which is good to see, as it has not been raining for quite a long time in this area. So I'm just going to now carry on and see if we can find some of the lovely, interesting animals again. Nola, the predators, when it's windy like this, they prey is well equipped with a very good sense of smell. So when the wind is blowing like this, can easily inform the prey about the presence of the predators. But sometimes too much wind like this can also be advantageous to the predators, because predators can also easily hunt and prey won't be able to hear them when they are approaching. So it does have both positive and negative impact on both prey and the predator. A prey get hunted. So I'm gonna have to talk loud at the moment because the wind is just blowing, otherwise you're not going to hear me nicely. So I'm glad that you can still hear me nicely. So now, let's see, David by the Masai Mara has got one of the scavengers, the vultures. Scavengers are those that eat the other animals' remains.
Well, I'm sure Sydney is always one lucky boy. When he looks around, he'll always get something exciting. Now, boys and girls, we have been watching a lot of wildebeest, a lot of zebras. Now, when the migration I was talking about happens, we'll always have cats following these animals. Cats, I mean cheetahs or leopards or lions. And once in a while, because they also need to live, they might bring one down. And if they bring, say, for example, a zebra down or a wildebeest, after they have eaten the fish, I mean the flesh or the meat, yeah, those are the zebras, the animals I'm talking about, the wildebeest. After the lions have eaten all what they need to eat from these animals, then we'll have some bones left behind, some skin left behind. When all that is left behind, it's not very good for the savannah. It's not very good for the wilderness. It's not good for the bush. Now, the birds that you see on top of that tree will always come and clean that mess. We usually say they scavenge, which means those birds you see there, they act like garbage collectors that you have at your home. Maybe every day of the week you'll see a big truck coming with people to collect garbage. We call those birds up there vultures. Vultures. So their main job is to clean the savannah, but sometimes they have also been known to go for their own food. But more often than not, the vultures, what they do is just to make sure the savannah remains clean. So they'll stay on top of those trees, and from there they're perched up very high, and because they're high they can see very far. So if they don't see, sometimes they smell, but their eyesight is very good, so they can see lions from a distance, and when they see lions from a distance with a kill, they'll go fly there, and if there's a tree nearby, they'll perch on that tree and wait until the lions go. And then once the lions go, then they're going to hover down and start attacking that male. And by so doing, they clean my office. Isn't that exciting, boys and girls? So maybe one of these wildebeests will go down, I don't know when, but then if that happens, yeah, we've got two vultures down there. So they'll just stay there waiting for something to eat at one point. And we got different types of vultures in Africa. In Kenya, we got about 7 different types of vultures. The difference will be in size and also in color. So those animals are clever. They're eating in an area where it's a bit cool. And hopefully, boys and girls, I am doing anything possible. We have seen the wildebeest, we have seen the zebras, we have seen the vultures that clean our offices. So let's find out. If you're lucky, we might see lions. But in the meantime, let me take you back to Tristan in South Africa.
Well, good luck, David. Hopefully you'll get some luck and you'll be able to find yourself a lion somewhere there. We're still looking for the spotted cats that this area is famous for, so we're still trying to see if we can find a leopard somewhere. Hopefully there will be one out and about. But before we go to the leopard, oh, there's a vulture. There's a vulture that's flying off to the right. So from vultures up in the Masai Mara to a vulture here in South Africa. Now that's a white-backed vulture. I'm not sure which vulture you saw in the Mara, but this is our most common vulture that we see out here. These guys are pretty much everywhere in this Kruger Park area or Sabi Sands area, and you find them quite regularly. I'm pretty sure that this particular one is one that nests on Djuma, so they have a nest not too far from here, and they have a little chick at the moment. And so what you'll find with these guys is that they'll often go flying about looking for various signs of food. The problem is in wind like this, it's going to make it quite tricky for these guys. They're going to end up flying long distance, and to get back is going to be quite hard for them, especially at this time of the day. They don't like to travel too far from the nest. If it's getting dark, they'd rather go back and look after the chick. And so I don't think this one's going to go too far. I think it's going to settle down there and just try and stay out of the wind for a while in the hope that maybe there's a carcass somewhere in the general vicinity. But what I was going to say is, because we were kind of looking for spotted cats and we haven't found much just yet, we're going to try and head off towards the hyena den. So we have hyenas here that have a den. It's a new den, and the den is very, very close to where I am now. So I'm going to go and try and see if I can show you the hyena den quickly while we're in this area. I'm hoping that the mother is there. She has a very new little one. I think it's probably only about 4 or 5 weeks old, and so it's still very, very small and very cute. Hyenas have a bad reputation. They're often thought of as being very ugly and that no one likes them because they scavenge and steal food, but they actually are very cool animals, and the little babies are super cute. So we're going to head there. While we do that, let's send you back to Sydney, who is back at Chitwa Dam.
You did not see. You can see I've got one of the big 5 animals. The big 5 animals is a group which is consisted of the buffalo, the one we are seeing now, the lion, the leopard, the elephant, and the rhinos. So these animals are so very much curious and inquisitive. You can see that they are approaching and while listening at the same time. This is quite a very big herd. You will see, I think they are even more than 100. I can see coming and coming. So I will count them all later on. This is a magnificent sighting. So the buffaloes mostly, they are active until early in the morning. During the night is when they are still doing their activities, but when the sun is getting hot, they go and relax, normally inside the dry riverbed and also in the thick bushes. This is one of the biggest herds I have seen. Listen to that. That is not coming from the buffalo. That is coming from the hippopotamus. So the hippopotamus, they are now making quite a lot of calls. This is the one who was making that interesting call. So they are giving that call now because of the approach of the buffalo to the waterhole. You can see the buffaloes are led by one big male there. This is called a pathfinder. A pathfinder walks in front and is the one who got an advantage of feeding on better grass. The other ones, they do eat grass, but mostly they don't get the nutritious grass. Chris, that is very true. The call made by the hippopotamus earlier was phenomenal and is as if they are laughing. It's a very big animal. This herd is big and they are all going to drink at the same spot. This is interesting. I can see some of them are pushing each other. So these animals, they've got to come here and drink quite a lot of water because at this stage they are feeding on quite a lot of dry grass. So the dry grass doesn't have a lot of moisture on them. Oh, some of them are playing, some they are pushing each other. They are very happy with this. Look, some of them are now threatened by something. Not too sure because the crocodiles are very relaxed right there. Crocodiles are not very far away from where these buffaloes are drinking. And they are not even worried about the presence of these buffaloes. You can see the crocodiles are as they were when we got here earlier on. None. The crocodiles can be very much opportunistic and try their luck. If any of these buffaloes, specifically the small ones, the calves, when they go deep in this dam, they can be able to use that advantage and catch them. But crocodiles, buffaloes, mostly when one of them is attacked or is under attack, they retaliate, they come and assist. There is still quite a lot of buffaloes coming in. I can see the queue is still coming. What we are seeing now is nothing. So you can see they are still queuing, moving all the way up to this waterhole. This is the biggest herd I have seen here in Juma. So this is a lovely sighting. I'm really enjoying this sighting. We are very lucky to find these buffaloes coming here unexpectedly. So now let's go to David by the Masai Mara, who got a lovely lion sighting. So maybe the lions...
Well, lots of birds, ox-pickers today. But boys and girls, I told you, you are some of the luckiest kids this weekend because things are getting from good to better now. Best, I would say. We got some lion for you, and I'm trying to guess. Boom! Before she goes down, could be a lioness. And how lucky. Now, it's a bit warm here. We are doing like ranging to about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's pretty warm. And for that reason, cats in general do not like heat. And if you look carefully, he is on the shade of a tree. So she might lie there until it cools off, and she will start moving. Hello? Did you hear me? And look at how she wants to say hello to all of you boys and girls. Beautiful, isn't she? In my local language, we call lions Simba. Hi, Simba. And just like the cats you have at home, you know how sleepy they get. So even this one here, it's very sleepy. So she is having a snooze with her head up. Isn't that funny? But most likely her head might go down, boom, at in 1 minute. But because of the wind that you can see blowing that grass, she may not do that because she is not very sure what might happen. Oops, she just went down, boom. Will you give us another view of yourself? Now, what happens? Lions of all the cats we have in Africa are the most social cats. You might see one leopard or one cheetah, but it's very difficult to see one lion. So lions go in groups either of 2s, 3s, 10, sometimes up to 20. And they form, if you see a group of lions together, they form what we call a pride of lions. And a pride will consist of females and sometimes cubs or young boys or young girls in them. But in a pride, normally they are no males. Now we'll go back to that girl and see if she's going to rise up and say hello to us. Not sure she wants to do that, but if she is full, she has eaten well, as you can see on the belly, she has no reason to wake up or just to move around. Nola, I'll tell you, the pridemates are not very far from here. And we just found her alone where she is. And because we are in no rush, we have all the time in the world, we are going to search around here, finding out where her mates are or where the rest of the pride is. But definitely, lions will not be more than 100 meters apart. And more so, females. Females is very unusual to see one. They'll always be together, 3, 4, 5, 10 as I said earlier. But for the boys, you can see one alone and that is normal. You can see just 2 and that's perfectly fine. But for the females, they'll always go in a group. Now, boys and girls, I can tell you things are getting better because you have a huge surprise in South Africa.
Indeed, things are getting as good as they could possibly be for me because, well, we found the favorite animal that I like out here. So it's not the hyenas, but it is a spotted cat in the form of a leopard. And it's probably our most seen leopard by a very long shot. His name is Hosana, and he is a young male that is, well, still not an adult yet. He's what we would term a sub-adult male. And for some reason, he has been able to charm all the other male leopards, well, particularly his dad, and some of the females to allow them to stay here much longer than normal. Normally, a male leopard, when he reaches about 2 years, will get chased away, and he'll have to go and be nomadic and find his own territory. But this young male has managed to stay here, and his dad doesn't seem to be chasing him at this stage, and he's now going to be approaching well, he's over 2.5 years old now, and so he'll soon kind of be getting towards a bigger size, and for some reason he's being allowed just to stay in the area. And it's fantastic for us because he's one of the most relaxed leopards and also one of the most beautiful that we have out here. He really is a special cat, and I always love spending time with him. And he's been busy the last few weeks. He's done a lot of hunting, so he's been honing his skills and catching all kinds of little food items, and he's also been interacting with quite a lot of leopards. So not only has he been interacting with his dad, but he's also had to face up to a couple of the other males that are on the fringes of his dad's territory. And so there's other males that come in every now and then, and he has to try and kind of stay clear of them. And so he's had to be quite busy trying to avoid them as much as possible, and also to try and kind of stay in a safe place. But he really is a very cool leopard. He's often quite active, chasing things, looking for food, and kind of moving around and being as clown-like as you can imagine. He really is a funny cat to watch. He generally is up to no good at some points. Now, what he's doing at the moment is just sitting up on a mound, or a big mound, to watch what's going on. And so he's trying to kind of see if there's any maybe food items or anything that he could potentially go after. Now, sorry, Louise, with the wind, I didn't get the name there. I got the question, but not the name. So, Blue, you're asking how old Hosana is. You say that he's almost 3, right? Yes, well, he is approaching 3, slowly but surely. So he was born in February 2016, which makes him now 2 years and... he's almost 2 years and 8 months now, so you know he's getting older, and you can see his neck and shoulders are really starting to develop. He's starting to even get a little bit of a dewlap that's going to form, so that's going to be the area between his chin and his chest, which is a thick layer of skin basically that starts to hang down, and that's always an indicative of age in a leopard. So as that dewlap grows, so you'll start to see it gets bigger and bigger, and that will probably indicate to females that he is starting to come into his prime as the dewlap begins to sort of hang. It also could be intimidating to other males, and so it's a visual sign that leopards have, much like what you see with lions in a big mane. Well, we're going to spend probably the rest of our afternoon with young Hosana and see what he gets up to. While we do that, let's send you across to Sydney with another one of the big iconic animals from Africa.
You can see that the buffaloes are still here, still very much relaxed, and they are having water at the moment. And I can hear there's quite a lot of birds noise coming from where these buffaloes were coming from. That was nice. So these birds, I'm not too sure if they are giving an alarm call out this huge head of the buffalo, or maybe there is something behind them. So the hippopotamus, they are just giving some of the calls here, but they're not worried about this kind of a big head coming to drink at this water hole. They understand that they've got to share this water with some other different species. You can see now the crocodile is right in front of the buffaloes. It's not a very big distance for that crocodile to get to where the buffaloes are, but also it doesn't have interest. Irene, these kind of animals can drink up to 30 liters to 40 liters of water a day. So they come to drink now, and they come back again to drink in the morning. So now they must have to drink before they go back for feeding purposes when the sun is cooling. So in the morning they must have to come and drink so that they can have water to assist their digestive system when they are dealing with the dry grass. Oh, some of these buffaloes are now running away from that side. I'm not too sure what is irritating them. Nora, that is true. This is indeed a great sighting. You can see that these animals are enjoying water and the sun at the same time, because those that are already done with drinking, they're just now enjoying the sun. The wind which is blowing here where I am at the moment is very, very cold, and the sun is now at least giving them some heat. So you can see the males, they've got very big horns, and the females don't have big horns. So the one that you are seeing now there with the rough horn, that is one is those horns. You can see it's very rough because they thresh against the bushes. Sometimes they hit the termite mounds, which helps them in order to sharpen the tips of these horns. These are the horns which are responsible for defense. When the buffalo is threatened, when he's cornered by the predator, he got to use these horns in order to defend himself. So all these buffaloes, some of them, they are looking at the direction where they're coming from. I've got to check what is it that they're checking. Jima, I've just lost your question. I didn't copy it nicely. Jima, a herd this big can easily get split up because the predators such as the lions, when they come, their aim is to single out and they disperse them. Sometimes those kind of predators, they disperse them. Firstly, the buffaloes are going to run away, and shortly afterwards they will come together and then retaliate. They can get splitted and easily come back again in order to assist one of their family members. So now let's go back to David by the Masai Mara, who is still by the lovely lion sighting. Lion is one of those animals that go after the buffaloes.
This lioness is still sleepy, and I'm sure you know even the cats at home how much they sleep. It's not much difference to the lions, because the lions apparently are also types of cats, but they are wild cats. So of all the cats we got in Africa, lions spend more time sleeping. In general, lions, cheetahs, leopards will sleep, but lions sleep more than all the other cats, that is, leopards or cheetahs. So this particular one is no exception. And she's still enjoying her nap. But once in a while, you'll see her flicking her ear, because if a fly comes to her ear, she just flicks her ear. Paul, I would say most cats do not like to swim. I'm sure you know, even cats at home, they don't like getting wet because of their fur. Unlike the dogs, we know dogs like to swim, Paul, but in general cats, including the lion or the lioness we have here, they do not like to get their fur very wet. So lions don't like to swim, but I'll tell you, if there'll be a reason for them to swim, they will. They're not very good swimmers, but they can go through water, they can go through a puddle of water, they can even go through a river to the other side. If, for example, they see an antelope on the other side of the river, comfortably, we see them splashing in the water, but if they need like to float and just to paddle in the water, they will comfortably do that to the other side. But in general, they don't like to swim a lot. You can see how she is breathing, or we would say she is panting because it's a bit warm. See that? And the ear. And notice she blends in very well with where she is. See all that panting? It's just because it's warm where we are. And you can see the movement around the neck and the head area. I would say this has been a fantastic 1 hour, and you boys and girls, I'm sure you have noticed how lucky you've been today, and I'm sure you're all smiling and your parents are also smiling. We want to thank you for sending all the questions. We want to say thank you very much for watching. And on behalf of my other colleagues, Sydney and Tristan in South Africa, and all the camera operators that have done a very good job, we want to thank you, and hopefully we'll be seeing you again soon. Make sure you do your homework, brush your teeth, and always listen to your parents. Thank you from all of us, and goodbye.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to our regular normal afternoon, and you can see that we have a very, very special surprise, because we have a leopard that we've hardly seen before. It's my first time to see this particular male. I've seen lots and lots and lots of pictures of him, but it's the first time to actually see him in real life, which is very, very exciting, which we'll get into quite shortly. My name is Tristan, and I have got a VM and the wildebeest on camera, and well, it wouldn't be a VM and a Tristan drive if it wasn't a leopard drive, and so we don't only have that male, but we also have another male on the other side of me in the form of Hosanna. Now remember that you can ask lots and lots of questions. We hope that you will ask lots of questions, and you can do so by sending your questions through to #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can also send them through on the YouTube chat stream. And remember to use @FC to keep the questions relevant, and we will try and get through as many as possible. So basically what we've got is Hosanna in there and Umfakazi up in the trees. Hosanna was in the tree this morning when Umfakazi ran away from Sydney, and then Hosanna kind of capitalized and went and kind of scavenged, and Sydney went past here on his way to Chitwa earlier and saw no sign of Umfakazi at all, and we kind of came bumbling past in the hope that we might find Hosanna for the kids show, and we managed to see him up in the tree, and you can see immediately that he is watching in this direction. We haven't gone close at all. We're keeping our distance very, very far at the moment. We're sitting with Hosanna, and the reason why is that he is twitchy. As soon as you go anywhere near the edge of the road, he kind of goes and starts to move a little bit, so we just keeping a long distance, and this is how it goes to try and start getting a leopard relaxed. As time goes on and you slowly but surely you just get a little bit closer, he'll get more and more relaxed, and eventually hopefully be like many of our bigger males that we see in this area, like Tingana and the like. So he is a little bit shy. He's okay at night. From all the video clips I've seen and pictures I've seen, the guys actually see him fairly well in the evenings. He seems to relax under the spotlight, which is very typical of male leopards that are shy, or even female leopards. But as soon as it's sort of daylight, and particularly with the kill and another leopard around, I'm thinking that he's probably a little bit shy. It's not an area he knows all that well. We know that he does move around on the fringes of Djuma and probably has moved through Djuma, but he doesn't spend a lot of time here, and so he's probably quite nervous. This is very close to where Tingana had his warthog killed this week, and so there might also be the scent of that floating about, and so I would imagine he's a little on the shy side, and that's why when Sydney approached him this morning, he came kind of barreling down and moved moved off. I'm not surprised at all, though, that he's sitting on the kill and Hosana's not. Hosana is a much smaller leopard than Umfukazi. I mean, not much smaller, but he is smaller. And that means that as soon as this leopard approached, Hosana would have gone down. But what you can see that's quite evident is Hosana had a really good feed on that particular carcass. He's really kind of eaten a lot out of the stomach sort of area and around the ribs, and has had a good feed. Now that male looks as though he's going to start feeding a little bit too, which is quite interesting. So he is relaxing with our presence, which is good news. And so we're just going to keep watching him and see how we go. And as it gets darker, hopefully we can get a little bit closer. Right. In the meantime, though, Sydney is still Chitwa is still sitting with the buffalo, and so let's send you across to him and see what they're up to.
A huge herd just got some water here by the Chitwa Dam. Now I can see all they're doing is playing, pushing each other and rubbing horns against each other. It's just amazing here where I am at the moment. Look at that. They're just looking the horns and pushing each other. And this is very much important in learn the little ones how to fight and how to use these horns. So you can see some of the big ones are also there, making sure that the youngsters don't injure each other. So all of them are just pushing each other from the horns. Sharon, that is true indeed. This is an awesome buffalo sighting. You can see they are very much relaxed and they have very ability to use their horns, which is very, very interesting. Look at that. Also on this side, the same thing is happening. So play is one of the very much important tools in order to learn to adapt for survival on these animals. Look at that. This is beautiful. So these horns is just a bone and a keratin. So the keratin consisting these horns is very much strong. But when the animal is dead, but that keratin also get decomposed. It's just that it takes time, but it does happen. For this keratin to get decomposed, there are some of the decomposers, the horn borers, which are responsible to come and decompose this kind of horns. Without these horn borers, this keratin, it won't go anywhere. You can hear the sound of the horns clicking. So these are the big ones. You can see that they are all just aiming it there. Now is according to the size, maybe according to the age as well. Look at that. This is lovely. These animals are so happy. So it seems like the other males, they got jealous when others are playing and they come and make it real that I am very strong, you can't do anything. So now they are starting to leave. A very, very good afternoon. I am Sydney Pumunani Mikosi. I am with Craig. We are going to give you the best experience ever. So now let's go back to David, who's got his lions. No, I thought she was blinking because she said...
Many times if you see wildebeest from a distance and you do not look carefully, you might mistake them for the buffaloes that sit in herd. But you not mistake a wildebeest that has been brought down by lions and it's being devoured. Like this here. And this pride of lions we have here, as much as we see one at the moment, is what we call the Owino pride. Owino pride consists of 5 lions, or 4 lionesses and 1 male, and they got some either late lunch or early dinner, and you can see, do I say that's a bit creepy? And I would say anybody who is a bit squeamish and might not be impressed to watch this, I may request you to watch aside, or maybe just switch off your screen and come watch later. But this is how things go here. Lions are carnivores. They will need to feed, and they can only feed on prey like wildebeest. I would say this is what used to be a wildebeest, not anymore, and is a very fresh kill. As you can see, the color of the blood there. Clever lioness just eating it right in the center of that little bush of grass, and of course under a torchwood tree. The tree will give it some nice shade, which will guarantee it staying fresh. So the pride of Owino, as I said earlier, they're always 5. I got 2 with me here. One is very flat where she is. We can't see her very well. Ooh, what do you want to do now? Oh, all right. We see how strong you are. And it has 4 females and 1 youngster boy. It's one of the females. One of them is called Butternut. We'll be finding out whether this is Butternut or not. But either way, she is a strong female. You can see how she's shearing and snaring that flesh of the wildebeest. And you can just hear as she shears it. Chris, Butternut, who I think is the pathfinder of the Owino Pride of Lions, was out, and she was mating with a male that we call Kipuli. And I think there was a bit of imbalance in this group, in this Pride of Lions, and the youngster male, I guess, I do not know for a fact, he decided to go and wander on his own just like boys would do, and most likely he ended up in trying to join a different coalition. And to me, he was given a very big beating. And when he came back, he had all these teeth marks and claw marks, especially on the hindquarters. But from what I saw him the first time and 2 days ago, Chris, he looks much better. We have a girl who has been following these lions for a long time, called Nikki, and I've told her to make sure she keeps taking a close look on the recovery of this particular youngster. So, I mean, the blood seems to have clotted. It wasn't a very deep wound, and I would say it was more on the skin, so it wasn't very deep. And James thinks, or he's trying to tell me, we should have called a vet from Nairobi. And I think if something naturally happened to animals, we'll always leave nature to happen. But you'll be surprised, Chris, how lions recover from injuries like that. So, Chris, for one reason or another, I will not agree with James that we need to call a vet doctor to come and help treat it. Naturally, if they eat well, they drink well, and they don't get as much flies on that wound, they recover very quickly. This particular one lioness here must be very hungry. She is not stopping to eat. And I'm just wondering where the others are. They don't come in to join to devour this wildebeest. Where are your friends? I'm sure you did not bring that kill down alone. There was a hand from the others. We'll stick here a few more minutes and find out how full she gets, because there is another predator in South Africa that's not as lucky as this one here.
Well, good luck, David. Hopefully the rest of the pride will be there. I'm sure they will be. I don't doubt they'll be too far away. But given the way the Owinios move around, you never know. Maybe the other one's off hunting different wildebeest. But you can see him, Fukazi is relaxing quite a bit now. So he's starting to kind of settle on the tree and start to sleep. Now, you might be hearing a lot of wind noise. I do apologize. It is absolutely howling this afternoon, and so it's causing a bit of an issue. And I'm trying to kind of keep my hat down so that we don't get too much wind and noise, but it's really not easy at all. The wind is kind of kicking up, and it's coming from the south. east at the moment, and it's causing a little bit of an issue. But anyway, hopefully it will kind of back off and it will start to calm down a little bit. But there you can see Hosanna is casually napping. He doesn't look as though he's at all worried about the other leopard that's in this area. It's probably because he's got a big fat full belly from eating during the course of the day before he was chased off by that male, and so everything is absolutely fine. Also, you can see there's no scratches or cuts or scrapes on his nose, so it doesn't look like it was any interaction in terms of physical with this male, and it seems as though both of them are fairly kind of content just to sit. And I wonder if Hosanna, this is his trick, is to wait for this male to come down and go and drink, and then he can rush in and kind of steal bits of it, or if we're going to see him kind of move off slowly but surely during the course of today. It would be interesting. I have a funny feeling Tingana is also going to show up on the scene at some point. We are in the right area for Tingana to make an appearance as well. So Gemma, his dewlap is getting bigger, but still not massive yet. In terms of when he'd be considered an adult, when he's sexually mature, basically, so when we start to see him scent marking and actually coming into an age where he can mate. I know there are males that have mated at a young age like this, 2.5, but, you know, he generally, you know, anything over 3.5, that's when we start to call them more adults, particularly in females. Males, you know, an adult male is normally around sort of 4 or 5 years old. You start to call them adult males. But if he starts to mate, then he's then transgressed into adulthood, and he's basically will be referred to as one. So we'll see. It's still a while away. You know, a year and a half, a lot can happen. You think about what's happened in the year and a half prior, in his 2 years of living. You know, it's been a very, very, very big change up in the leopard world, and VM and I were actually talking about it now. When VM started here, you know, it was Karula and Kunuma and Quarantine and Shadow and Mvula, Tingana, and a lot of those leopards now are no longer with us or no longer around, and so, you know, it changes a lot, and he's got a long way to go before he can be a dominant male, and you'll have to kind of get through all of these obstacles that we have in the forms of male leopards like Hukamuri and Mfakazi. I don't think Mfakazi is a male that's going to stick around. I'm pretty sure he's kind of wandered through here, and he seems, it's a very odd leopard because he's been seen in a lot of different places, and a lot of you won't know too much about him, but he basically has traversed a large area. He's been seen as far north as the Timbavati, and is all the way through the Manyaleti. He's been seen on Simbambili, Arethusa, Elephant Plains, Buffalo's Hook. Even I think he's been seen in Torchwood once as well, I believe. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it might be. But he's kind of moved around quite a bit, and so I think he's very sort of migratory in his patterns, which is odd because obviously we think of male leopards as dominant characters and animals that stay dominant in an area, whereas this guy seems to be a complete nomadic male and moves around quite a bit and seems to carry on kind of moving and doesn't seem to have set up a territory anywhere. And so as soon as Tingana finds out this guy is here, he's not going to be very happy at all, and would in all likelihood push him off. And like I say, the difference between where Tingana was with the warthog and this is probably less than 300 meters. And so if Tingana comes wandering past here at some point, I wouldn't be surprised we'd see him arriving. Now there's a hyena as well. Let's come onto the scene. I'm not surprised they're here. We're also probably only about 300 meters from the hyena den itself, and so they might be able to kind of smell it and sit around. Now, Louisa, if you're trying to talk to me, I can't hear you at all. My wind noise is bad. Sorry, Lou. I'm trying to stop it from being windy. I'm kind of crunched into the sort of cockpit of the car and trying to stay as still as possible and down as possible so that the wind is not too bad. Now you can see he's kind of watching in this direction. He's still not 100% comfortable, I don't think. I think if we had to approach, he'd probably bound down that tree pretty quickly. Well, Chris, there's a simple reason why he's allowing Hosanna to be quite close, is that if he moves from that carcass, there's a very real threat that he could potentially lose it. You know, Hosanna might be going up there and then getting a bit of it. You also know that if he moves away, another leopard might arrive, and so he'd rather stay where his meal is, on top of it, and that kind of dominates the carcass, which will send a clear message to Hosanna that he's not scared of him and that he'd rather stay up there. Once he's finished with that meal, it might be a different story. He might come down and chase Hosanna, or if Hosanna gets too close, you might find he'll chase him. But for now, he knows that he's in the prime seats. He's up in a tree away from the hyenas. He's got the food item, and therefore no need to chase young Hosanna away. He also might find he's already established himself on Hosanna. He's already said, you know, I'm more dominant than you, and that's why Hosanna is lying as far away as he is. We know that if this was Tingana, Hosanna would be lying pretty much at the base of the tree. We know Hosanna doesn't mind going closer, and you can see he's quite a long way away from where this leopard is at the moment, and so maybe this leopard sent a clear message already and knows that he's bigger and more powerful than Hosanna. Hosanna knows that he's an older male, and therefore just kind of moved away and is just waiting his time to see if this guy goes for a drink or something like that, and then he might go and try and scavenge again. Also, there's been a lot eaten off that carcass, so I'm pretty sure that Hosanna had a really good feed already today before Mfakazi arrived back and was able to actually get the meal that he needed. But you can see he's watching the hyenas. He's a little bit kind of precariously placed up there, which is not ideal for him. It must be very windy up there and not very comfortable at all. Sharon, no idea. When Sydney kind of came through here earlier, he on his way to Chitwe, he said that he saw Hosanna, but he didn't say anything about Mfakazi being up in the tree. So unless, of course, maybe Sydney just thought from a far distance it was Hosanna. I'm not sure, but in all likelihood, you would find that Hosanna was probably fed for quite a while and then came down and was just lying, and Mfakazi either made his way back, or Hosanna saw Mfakazi coming and descended and ran away quickly before Mfakazi got a little bit closer. Hosanna would have worked out very quickly today that this is not a leopard he knows and not one that he wants to get too close to, and so you find that he'd probably seen it and just decided, I'm going to try and kind of stay away as much as possible. You can see another hyena is involved. So there'll be quite a few hyenas around. It's very close, like I say, to the den, so we should see Corky in this area, and hopefully she'll get a leg or something and be able to feed off it. But very cool to see anyway. A new leopard is always wonderful, and hopefully he doesn't do anything to Hosanna. Everything seems very peaceful at this stage. In the meantime, though, let's send you back across to Dave, who hopefully has found the rest of his lions.
Well, hopefully Hosanna will get himself some dinner before darkness, and that will be exciting if we can capture that during the drive. We've been able now to get another female that just came and joined, not exactly joining the party or the wildebeest that's being eaten, but that is the other member of the Owino Pride. For those who are joining us now, we are watching the Owino Pride of Lions. It usually consists of five members, 4 females and 1 youngster, the one you just saw there, and this one here that is having either her late lunch or early dinner, and you can see she's still trying to pull and get to the right part of the fillet that she wants. I'm not sure, she's trying to open the stomach contents. That's what she's trying to do, and get that membrane. Aiden, that's a wonderful question for your age. Very well done. You look at her, Aiden, right now. Did you see? She was looking. It's because she was looking to find out if there could be anybody coming around. But she noticed there was nobody. So lions will eat, they'll pause, they'll stop, Aiden, and then look around, just to make sure there's nobody who is coming to get their food. But if they happen to see someone coming, look at her, Aiden. You see she's looking in the background? Now she's guaranteed there's nobody coming. And if anybody would come, they will very quickly attack whoever it is and tell them, away you go. Don't get close to our food. If the 2 of them, for example, as you see there, Aiden, maybe one could be eating and then the other one could be watching. Let's find out if they're going to say hello to each other. Look at that, Aiden. Yeah. That's hello, Jumbo. How are you? One of them has a daughter here. I'll be trying to find out if it's this one. There's one that we call Butternut, and Butternut has a daughter here. And Lou in the final control says, look at how amazing that is. 2 lionesses, bellies up. And you notice that's pretty light color. And when lions are facing up like that, we have always been very lucky to spot them because the white is quite conspicuous. Now, Nick in the final control, who I said is very good in helping us to identify these lions out in the bush, says these are the two daughters in the winter pride. So maybe on a closer look, they might be of the same size and having so many commonalities, similarities, and like two sisters, they tend to bond very well. One has been eating, and then it's maybe the time for the other sister now to go and eat. And if I'm not wrong, I guess they are daughters of butternut. Nikki may correct me. It's time to eat now. Your sister has been eating. And thank you very much, Nikki. I was a little bit cautious, but yes, she has confirmed the two are sisters and their mother is called Butternut. I can't or have not seen the mother as yet, and I've been hoping she'll pop up her head somewhere. But one thing I know for a fact, she's not very far from here. Well, she could, but the other day she was away mating with the male I called Kipuli. Look at her again trying to pull where her sister left, but ideally either they want the stomach contents out or they want to eat that membrane that covers the stomach content, because that is pure flesh. We want to see your eating skills. Your sister has been doing very well. Let us see how you're going to devour that. Will be as we wait to see whether your mother will show up, Butternut. But in the meantime, Sydney got some antelopes for us.
I have got the zebras. You can see now, these zebras are not just by themselves here. They are mingling together with another completely different species. You can see they are feeding together with the waterbucks. So the waterbucks are leading the way with the zebras behind. So they're all striped animals. You can see that the waterbuck also got a stripe at the back. So zebras are one of the very, very interesting animals, as they have got a very anti-predatory strategy. So they employ a strategy which is called a dazzle motion, whereby they run rapidly, and when they are running too fast, that restricts the ability for the predator to see the size of the animal and the direction of that animal. So that is how they can quickly confuse their predators. So you can see there's even impala here in the middle. So this is what is called a safety in numbers. A safety in numbers. So it means animals, when the different species are feeding together, it helps them to prevent predators to single one of them out. And here there is quite a lot of dependency amongst these different species. Some of them here can smell very well, whereas some can hear very well, and some can see very well. So it's quite a very good combination. So with this kind of wind, I am sure they can be able to help each other against the big cats. So looking at the zebras and the waterbucks has got fluffy hairs, and this kind of weather, which is wind and cold, that kind of a coat serves like a blanket. So the zebras this side don't have that, but they've got their own strategy in order to get the heat and to reflect the heat because of their black and white stripes. Zebras are very well equipped with a dangerous kick and turn mechanism. So Daniel, the zebras, they got their stripes as part of their melanistic pigments. So some of these stripes, they get very dark, and some of them you will see them bright, and each one of them has got its own stripe pattern. It's just like our fingerprints. So my plan now, after this lovely sighting, I'll be heading towards the Buffalo's Hook Dam and see if I can find the interesting cat such as Tingana or any other interesting cat that side. I am learning that here in Juma I have got to expect unexpected. So now let's go back to Tristan, who is also having something interesting for you.
Well, I mean, it is interesting. We've got a leopard. We've got, well, two leopards, actually. We've got a sunset that's coming, and hopefully we are going to get an epic sunset. I'm hoping the cloud actually gets blown away a little bit, and we get this golden or red big ball that will be in the sky with all the dust, and we can silhouette Mfakazi behind that big sun. That will be ideal. We'll hopefully be able to get that right and see how it goes. He's still sitting up in the tree, looking around. He's watching all the hyenas that are moving about, and he's kind of still aware of what's happening. I don't want to get any closer than what we are, even though I know it's a long way away and we can't really see too many details on him and what he really looks like as a leopard. But you know, it's better that we start getting him more and more relaxed with us and don't approach too close than it is to go and get right up a sort of where he is and force him to run away again. You know, obviously we don't want him to move, and he wants him to get more comfortable with vehicles, and so this is the kind of process that has to take place, is that we have to try a little bit. So you can see that's when we kind of zoom in quite a bit, you can get a bit of a better look on him. He's got quite an interesting tail. It's quite a thin tail in comparison to the sort of other leopards that we see in this area. Now Bob, what Mfakazi means, I'm not 100% sure. I think it's something to do with stranger. I remember it wasn't us that named him or one of the lodges around here. It was actually named by one of the guys that owns property up in Buffelshoek, and he named it, I think it was Mfakazi was stranger. I think that's what it means. I'm just trying to remember, and we'll try and kind of check it out. I've got it marked off somewhere on my phone as its meaning, but I think stranger is what I remember it being, and that's because nobody knows where he kind of came from and who he was prior to him being seen a little bit more regularly on Buffelshoek last year. In fact, he was actually seen mating with Inchila last year, and then he kind of hung around for a few weeks, and then from there he's been seen fairly regularly. Unfortunately, I think he often gets lumped into the Gajima bin as a skittish leopard that runs off, and everybody always just kind of throws the skittish leopards into the Gajima bin, and so I surmise that it could potentially be seen a lot more than what we actually think. Interestingly enough, though, they reckon that he might have been the one that attacked one of Sibui's cubs and killed it. So they weren't 100% sure, and apparently he's got a cut, or the leopard that killed that cub had a cut on its face, and we know that Mfakazi does have a scar under his right eye, so it's possible that it was him, but always very difficult to tell. You can never 100% sure unless you actually get footage or videos or photos of it and can confirm that way. You can see Hosanna is not worried in the slightest. He's flat out sleeping, belly nice and full, and I'm sure he's loving the fact that it's a little bit cooler than it has been over the course of the last few days. It's definitely not nearly as hot as we had, you know, since he's had his bushbuck, and so he seems to be a fairly happy cat, not too concerned at all with what's going on at the moment. He seems to be, I suppose the wind blows a bit, it's now woken him up. He missed an opportunity, actually. A warthog came walking past just now, and he was so sleepy he missed the warthog and didn't have any sort of go at it. I suppose he's quite full, so he doesn't really have to worry too much, but you can see he's watching that other leopard very clearly, just looking at him, making sure that he doesn't kind of take his eye off and get caught too short. I'm pretty sure he also wants to get closer towards that impala carcass and be able to actually get some food off of it, and so he's kind of watching with daggered stare towards that other male and trying to work out whether or not he's going to get some. I reckon that we might see another leopard arrive here. The kill is so visible from so far in so many different directions that I wouldn't be surprised that tomorrow morning a different leopard is on this kill in the form of maybe Tingana or Hukumuri, maybe even. I wouldn't be surprised if Tundi even arrived in this section. So it's going to be an interesting kind of couple of days. It's a big carcass, so it'll definitely still be here tomorrow, that's for sure. But very, very cool to see the interactions between our leopards, and once again we're being blessed with a number of leopard sightings. Right, well, let's send you back across to Dave up in the Mara. Hopefully his lions are still tucking into their wildebeest and are still looking happy.
Good to be cautious with new cats. You know, as Tristan says, he needs to learn the behavior of this new cat around and doesn't get very used to the vehicles. And the daughter of Butternut, who ate earlier, He's just now there resting and enjoying the view. Not sure she's looking at the wildebeest in the background there. Why did you rise up? And wondering maybe for the next kill, where shall we start? What direction are they facing or where they are going? Remember, as we have always told you, this is always a very interactive safari. Should you have any questions or any comments, please send them through. Sinak, I think you have got me off guard, and that's a very good question. How old are these two girls here? And I'll be finding out from my expert Nikki in the final control, and as soon as she gives me that answer, I will let you know. But one thing is for a fact, they're fully grown girls. And well, I think I gathered they were born at the beginning of 2017. So we are now 2018. That means I would say they're going to 2 years or that time around, Sinak. I've been told they were born at the beginning of 2017, 2018, now going to 2019. So they're slightly just under 2 years, Sinak. So, but you can see that girl for 2 years, she is doing very well. She looks very solid, as you can see the Sinak. So for 2-year-old lioness, I think she's doing very well. And you can see the sister, we're still enjoying what the other sister left under the tree there. Beautiful sky, James. Are you showing me the sky? Showing us the sky? Rosalind, how strong is a lion jaw? I know a hyena is about 1,100. A human being is about 360 or so. I would guess about 600. Rosalind, I'll confirm for you, but it's definitely not. Doesn't have a PSI like of a hyena, which I said is 1,100. We human beings are about 300 plus or something like that. But I think for lions could be anything 700 there. Not strong like hyenas, as I said earlier, but of course much stronger than us. Rosalind, I would guess they got a PSI of about 700. Most important, they don't crush bones, even, not even like the crocodiles, which I think have the strongest or the highest PSI of about 5,000, especially the Nile crocodile. What the lions need to do is to cut the meat, is to shear it out of the bones, and rarely you hear them cracking the bones, especially the hard ones. The soft ones you'll see, but many times when you see a kill, we'll always see a rib cage of either zebra or the wildebeest. Lions don't do so much of bone crushing, but I'm sure at one point, Rosalind, I'll get you the exact PSI of a lioness. We won't go back to this lioness. What you see her doing, she's very well hidden now. James, you need to punch in right there through the grass and find out whether they can see her. I don't know why she has to hide her food, knowing there's no concern of anybody else. Carol 6, I think this kill is very fresh, and as yet, because it has cooled off now, it could be rather difficult for the hyenas to pick it up. But I'll tell you what, as soon as they pick it up and they gang up in big numbers, they'll be here in minutes. And these two girls will be done with this kill. But as it is now, we've been here for about an hour. We haven't seen any hyena, and Carol 6, I'm trying to smell it, and I would say it's still very fresh. I'm not smelling anything. So far, so good for these two girls. The only thing I see on the stalks of the grass around this lioness here are so many flies. Maybe waiting until this lioness will move and they might start licking what will be left behind. Well, every time I remember a particular dam in Juma in South Africa, it excites me because I used to see some geese there, or one particular hippo. Not sure what Sydney has around that dam now.
Do the heron first. So I can see there now with the several big stock as well as the heron. So the heron is also right on the other side there. I can see standing there. So these kind of birds, they... Oh, it's not a... Look at that. So all these two birds who are there, they're all equipped with very long legs. You know, the herons, specifically the gray herons, they remind me of the time I was still very young, as I was staying in the hut. And by this hut, sometimes during the day, the snakes, because there was quite a lot of rock pack by the yard, the rock specks were surrounding the whole yard, and there used to be quite a lot of snakes. And these snakes, sometimes they climb the huts. And these birds, the gray herons, is the ones that come and they take these snakes. When seated outside, you just see this bird dragging a snake from the roof, from the hut, from the grass. It's a very big snake. So we used to stay with these snakes, not even seeing them, and only see them the time these kind of birds with this long neck dragging them and flying away with them. So, but those snakes, they were not biting us. So we used to stay with them. So now I'm experiencing a lot of headache today because of this wind and the sun. I just want to now quickly fix myself here. It's too windy. This lighter is not working. So I want to have the elephant droppings so that I can inhale a little bit in order to chase away these headache. But I can see that the lighter is not working. The wind is too much. I will have to try again nicely. This lighter is not winning. So this lighter doesn't want me to chase away the headache from this medicine. So nothing is happening. Now I'm going to have to change the lighter and use another lighter. I will try again later on. I must have to try and see. Maybe the lighter has got a problem at the moment. So now let's go to Tristan, who's got the spotted leopards at the moment, spotted cats.
We do indeed, and we're trying to line up a shot that Wildebeest and I want, and that's of a sun setting behind a leopard in a tree. And so we've kind of gotten to the best point that we can get for him to be silhouetted. We just now need the sun to drop down a little bit further and the clouds to blow away a little bit more. You can see there's the sun above him, so it should be fairly right. The problem is we've got one tree that's in the way, stopping us getting it 100% right. So we're going to see how it goes, but ideally it will kind of work out, and hopefully he'll move a little bit so we can get him a bit more kind of silhouetted against the sun. We're trying to be artistic here, given that, you know, we don't want to get too close to him and we can't do too much more. You can see he's watching us very, very clearly. His tail's twitching every now and then, and he's definitely paying attention, and he's not sitting as a very relaxed animal. You know, he's not lounging over the branches. He's kind of got his paws upright, his back legs are up. If he was very relaxed, you'd find that he would be kind of draped over that branch, and his tail would be quite sort of limp. It wouldn't be twitching on the end at all. So that gives you an idea that he is watching us and is kind of seeing what's going on. I think the more we sit still, the better it is. It's just because we've moved now and repositioned that maybe he's watching a little bit, but that's quite nice. If the sun comes down a little bit, we should be able to get a really nice view of him kind of with silhouetted up against the sun. So that's the idea anyway. Hosanna's still sleeping away and is really not doing too much at all, and I think part of the reason why we're seeing him still up there is because Hosanna's around. I don't think he wants to come down with Hosanna being too close. Lindsay, without getting close, is very difficult to identify it as a Mfokazi. So going off what happened this morning is one part of it. He's just got a general look about him that's not any of the leopards that I know from here very, very well. So as soon as we drove past here, I said to VM, it's not Hosanna in the tree at all. He does have a bit of a notch in his right ear. It's difficult to see it now, but when the camera was on him earlier and the light wasn't so harsh behind him, you could just make it out. He's also got a bit of a scar on the right side of his face, and then on his backside there were a few spots that were matched this morning. And so kind of the general look of him is one of a bit different to any of the other leopards we see. He's almost got a bit of a hukamuri look about him, but not quite as boxy in the face. He's a little bit more of a slender face, and so that's why from a long distance you can immediately tell it wasn't Hosana, it wasn't Tingana, and it wasn't hukamuri. And so, you know, the list then becomes quite short as to which male leopard it could be. And knowing that he was here this morning, we kind of surmised that it was him, and then we punched the camera right into him as close as we could, and obviously worked it out from there, and also used binoculars. So that's how we kind of did it. It's not because we saw him from this distance and immediately knew it was him, but what we did know straight away when we got here is that it wasn't Hosana in that tree because of the size of him. Right, now poor Sydney has got a headache. He is suffering with the sun and the wind, and I can attest that the wind is atrocious today, and he's been trying to light some elephant dung, and let's see if he's managed to get some success.
This headache has been too much. Yeah, now it's getting better straight away. Yeah, the elephant dung is a very good medicine, because now I can promise you I cannot feel anything. This has been now I think I'll be fine, Craig. We can carry on now. So now we are going to carry on. I'm back now. I am back now, kicking strongly. So all I've got to do now is to extinguish this it burns very quickly, the elephant dung, so I must have to at least kill it and make sure that it's dead completely. And I'm not going to throw it away here. I will have it until we get back, so that I'm sure there is no there is no fire in the reserve. So now I will be checking. Chris, it works. I can promise you now, I am a completely different Sydney. I'm not the Sydney you saw earlier on. I am now a new Sydney. So I'm sure this smoke from these elephant dungs will also help me about other things that I'm not sure of that are in the body at the moment. You mustn't forget that elephants eat quite a lot of different medicinal trees. So now it means I have just got the mother of all medicines in the bush. It does work for any other pain. The droppings for the elephants, they serve quite a lot of purpose, and they also help with the nose bleeding as well. So if you've got some nose bleeding, you just have to burn and inhale, you're going to be fine straight away. So what I like about elephant dungs is that there is no time period to wait and see if it's going to work or not. It works right away. So that's why now I don't have any headache anymore. And I've been using it in order to stop the nose bleeding as well. It works straight away. So I can see that here by this area, it seems like Tingana went much more towards Torchwood as well, because his tracks are heading towards there, and is the one I was hoping to find in this area. So now let's go to the spotted cats with Tristan.
Well, Mfakazi can be glad that Tingana's gone into Torchwood. It means that he'll get some respite for now, and hopefully won't be seen. But now you can see quite clearly with his kind of turn to us that there's that kind of half moon shape out of his right ear that gives you an indication. And he's got a very serious look about him, doesn't he? He's got quite kind of stern face. He's now relaxed a lot. He's got his sort of leg down. He's not standing up like he was. So we're getting there slowly. Unfortunately, the cloud is ruining my sunset completely at this stage, because it's swallowed up the sun There you go. You can see now the sun has completely been swallowed by that cloudy horizon. It's typical that the day we get a leopard in a nice big marula tree, well, I wouldn't say big marula tree, but a marula tree with a clear background, the sun would go behind a cloud. You can see there's the clouds being pushed in, and with this wind they're moving extremely fast. When we started the drive, those were actually right over us, and it looked as though we were going to get some rain, and slowly but surely it's kind of drifted away and left a rather dusty sky. You can see lots and lots of dust particles that are glowing in that, and there's our leopard sitting there. It's a beautiful scene actually to be sitting out here, as much as it's cold and windy and a bit miserable from a sort of being out in those elements. It's still very pretty to look at. But there we go, he's starting to sleep, isn't he? He's starting to kind of close his eyes every now and then, and his shape of his head is very different to the shape of Hosana or Tingana's head. They don't have as elongated a head as that. They tend to have a much shorter muzzle than what he seems to have, so his kind of outline is different already. So Omar, his spot pattern is, give me 2 seconds, I've got a picture of him, so I'll be able to tell you fairly shortly what it is. I think it is a 3-3, if I remember correctly. Let me just try to find the picture of him quickly. Yes, I think 3-3 is what it is. So it's 2 spots very close, I think, on his left side of his muzzle, with one a little bit further forward towards the nose, and then 3 on the right. But I'm struggling to find where I put that picture now. I was having a look at him today just to kind of have sort of better knowledge of him and what he looks like. And I don't know what I've done with that photo. I thought I'd saved it, but it seems as though I haven't on my phone, so that's not ideal. But anyway, I think he's a 3-3 male, if I remember correctly, which is cool. So I don't know how much more we're going to actually see him, or if we're going to get a lot of sightings of him, but we'll hopefully get something in the, you know, more than just this, and we'll hopefully get a little bit of a closer view so that you can all actually see what he looks like, and we can confirm his spot pattern. But I'm pretty sure there are quite a few pictures out there of him that we would be able to use and to be able to ID exactly what his spot pattern is. I might be wrong on the 3-3, but let me try and have a little look and see. He might actually be a 4-3, so I don't know. I'll have to try and find those photos. I don't know what I've done with them. They seem to be lost at the moment, and so I think it's 4-3 actually might be the end. We'll have to ask. Some of you must have a photo that you'll be able to help us with. I know James or Eileen or any of them will maybe be able to help us out and give us a Michael Fleetwood as well. He also can help us with pictures of these guys. They generally have lots of them in the bank, so I don't know why it didn't save, but I think he's 4-3 or 3-3, one of the two. Right, now I just need to move for these guys that want to come past us. So MVP, is there a chance that these two leopards will fight? In all likelihood, no. So I don't think so. I think Hosana knows that this is a leopard that he doesn't want to tangle with too much, and that's why he's lying so far away. And Mfakazi, well, he just wants to protect his kill and to kind of eat it. He doesn't want to have any sort of thing to do with the, you know, with fighting with other leopards, because that can attract attention to him, particularly in this area. Now, because the sun has completely disappeared, I'm actually going to reposition ourselves a little bit better for this sighting so that we can actually see him a little bit easier than what we had. VM, is that better, or do you want me to go a bit more forward? So Hosana, like I say, I don't think we'll see a fight. I think Hosana knows that he mustn't get too close now. He's sitting far away, and he, up in the tree, just wants to eat his carcass. He doesn't, I don't think, want to come down and fight. You never know, though. You can never be 100% sure. Ah, there we go. So James says Mfakazi's spot pattern is 3-3. I thought it was 3-3. I was just for one point I thought maybe there was a fourth spot on the left side, but it is 3-3. So he's another 3-3 male. There's so many different 3-3 spot patterns out there, but they're all slightly different in terms of the actual arrangement of those 3 spots. But many leopards I've seen have a 3-3 pattern on their faces. But you know, the funny thing about spot patterns is a lot of people will use them to ID from photographs, and they undoubtedly are the best way to ID a leopard from a photograph. For me, though, when I see a leopard out here in real life, it's very difficult to actually see the spot pattern. I mean, we see these leopards, it's not like we have a zoomed camera eyeball that goes straight onto the spot pattern, so you generally just see the shape of them, and it's amazing actually how different their shapes are from from a distance. You can actually see quite quickly who they are. The ones I used to have trouble with was Shadow and Tundi, because they were so similar in their shape that it was very tricky to tell them apart until you got closer, and you had to use spots on them. But the males, definitely there is different shapes, and they have a different kind of gait and posture, and it's actually can be quite easy to tell the difference between them once you've seen them a few times. So if you've seen them a lot, then it starts to become a lot easier. And like I say, this guy's head shape and muzzle shape is completely different to the leopards we see here. He's got a very small dewlap, as you see there, and he's got a kind of elongated head that comes off. It's much longer than what you see on Hosana's head, and even on the likes of Tingana and Tamba and Hukamuri. Hukamuri's got a more kind of wider shaped head, and even Hukamuri's dewlap is bigger, and Hosana's, to be honest, seems to be bigger than this boy's already. He doesn't seem to be a big male, and maybe that's why he's nomadic, is he's just never been big enough to actually secure a territory for himself, and that's led to him moving around. He is believed to be kind of somewhere between 7 and 8 years old, maybe even a little bit older. He's been around for quite some time and has been seen all over the place, and so, you know, he's not a young leopard, and it would have thought by now he would have maybe found himself a spot to dominate, but it seems like he's quite happy just to sort of move around between the males, much like Mvula was doing towards the end of his life, and sort of just happy to live that kind of nomadic lifestyle. I suppose if you're a smaller individual, it's maybe difficult to dominate areas for any length of time with bigger males that potentially could be around, because he really isn't anywhere in the same weight class as Anderson or Tingana, or even Hukamuri. I think would be a little bit bulkier than him at this stage. You know, if you saw Hosana up in that tree, Hosana's not that much smaller than him, even though he's so much younger and still not fully grown yet. Right, now he is relaxing, and it is starting to get a little bit darker, so I think we're going to try and see if we can get a little closer to him and see how it goes. And while we do that, let's send you back across to Dave, who's bumbling about, and hopefully he'll bump into something of interest as he goes.
Well, we left the two girls, or the two sisters that were devouring the wildebeest, and decided to do a bit of exploration where we are now, to find out where are the other three of the Owino 5. We haven't seen any of them, but there's some very nice green patch. If James can point to that green patch in front of us there, and this to me looks like a little water area, or like a little marsh area, and definitely that tells you there's a lot of water there. My guess is maybe the other three would have gone to have a drink there, but none of them is there. You've been just panning and looking, and we can't see anything. So that green patch, that green area, have a natural spring, and I guess they could be there drinking, and not really. So what we're doing, we're just moving on and trying to explore the whole area and find out where the other three would be. Very interesting the other day when we had Butternut move and she went mating, and I think there's a bit of an imbalance in the pride, as I said earlier, that made the youngster decide also to leave the pride. So without the Butternut in the pride and the youngster out, that meant 2 out, and then 2 of the daughters of Butternut were left and 1 other female. So 3 of them were left, which means the social bonding of lions is very important, and they should always have a leader, because all the days I have known the Owino pride, they have always been together, the 5 of them. So I think the hierarchy in lions is very important. Not sure that applies to the males, but I think for the females, that's very important to have like a pathfinder, or the highest ranking female, to make sure the group, or the pride rather, stays together. Smelling a bit of rain from where I am. We're watching a bit of sunset. Not the best sunset, I would say. And I missed that. We're just trying to watch the sunset there from a distance. Not sure, Lou, I missed something there. Yeah, Lou in the final control agrees. It's not the very best, but the views of the clouds there and the sun trying to sneak is pretty cool. And then if James, you pan way to the left a little bit, you can see we have a wall of rain in the background of the horizon. And not sure that will come and get us at one point. So what we're expecting anytime, maybe in the next couple of days, are the short rains. Lulu, that's a very interesting question, but I tell you, the Olororo escarpment is one of the best escarpments you'll ever watch, and I do not know whether you are lucky to have had a chance to watch the movie Out of Africa. If not, please watch it, and you'll see Olororo escarpment features in there very prominently. But apparently, we have so many small streams coming up from the Olororo escarpment coming down, but we do not have a single waterfall on it, not one single waterfall. And from a distance, that's the Olororo escarpment. Lulu, I'm sure you know it. We haven't seen a single waterfall, but we've got so many streams that will always, you know, start from up there, coming down. Like see on that valley, you notice the green line of trees there. There's one stream that comes all the way down to the plains or to the savanna of the Mara Triangle. And the water will normally come out of the rocks. I'm going to move forward a little bit because what I can hear from a distance, I can hear some jackals barking, and I think they're trying to sneak on that kill of the lions. Not far from where they are. I can't see them, but I can hear them barking. This morning we're very lucky to see some jackal pups. Let's find out if they are fully grown or they're pups, but from the back it tells me they're fully grown. And the two sisters from a distance, we might be lucky, or I might show you, they have started to play. They have left the kill and they're walking away. So what I'll try and do is to catch up with the sisters before they go away, because they have a very interesting play. That's the two daughters of Butternut, and I'm sure as soon as they leave that prey, the jackals will come over. But as I try to get, you know, close to them, let's first go to Tristan.
Well, good luck. Hopefully you find something interesting, David. As you can see, we've crept our way very close to Mfakazi, and he is just sitting, not even looking at us anymore, and we're trying to keep our voices down just to see how he reacts to me speaking. But so far, so good. So far, we're getting him really well at the moment. I mean, I'm now probably, we've closed the distance to less than, well, probably about 2/3 of the way that we were earlier. We've managed to get closer to him, and he's not running, which is quite interesting. So we've gotten really a lot closer than I thought we were going to get without him reacting. He's not even looking at us at the moment, which is really, really cool. So we've managed to kind of just spend the afternoon at a safe distance. I wonder if he's just worked out that we're not a threat at this stage. And maybe this morning it was just all too much at once. Maybe he saw Hosanna coming, saw Sydney coming, and just kind of got a bit panicked. But he certainly is not displaying signs of an unrelaxed leopard right now. He's kind of in the area on the carcass, and he's not got his ears flattened. He's not kind of looking at us. In fact, he's facing the opposite way to us completely, and his tail is fairly relaxed. And so we actually kind of gotten a lot better than I thought we were going to get. We got a little bit of pink, well, sorry, not pink, yellow in the sunset that's coming through as well. So it's a really beautiful scene of him, other than the fact that there's a dead animal dangling under his legs. It's otherwise quite artistic, isn't it? I think it's quite pretty. But I'm really impressed with how close we managed to actually get. We managed to kind of get much closer than I actually thought, and he seems to be quite fine. Like I say, he's not even looking at me speaking now, which is great. It means that we'll probably be able to even get a little bit of a better view of him just now if we can just reposition slightly so we don't have the harshness of the sun behind him. That we'll be able to show you his kind of face a lot better. But isn't that cool? So a little bit of patience has paid off this afternoon, and sitting far away for as long as we have has hopefully led to us being able to see him a little bit better than what I thought we were going to. He's definitely not as unrelaxed. Also, you know, the darkness is starting to close in now, and a leopard will start to feel far more at home when it starts to get a little bit darker. But that's really cool that he's actually relaxed enough to close his eyes and have a bit of a nap next to us. Marcy, for sure, he's the fact that he's up there is protecting his kill is because he knows if he was down, Hosana might make an attempt to actually try and get to it, and he might find that, you know, if he moved off, Hosana would definitely come in and feed off it. So he is protecting it by sitting up there. He's sending a clear message to Hosana, this is my Impala, don't you dare come closer, you will not be able to get it. And I'm impressed that they actually that he kept this kill, because the proximity to the hyena den that he's killed this is so close that these hyenas must have been here in a flash, and so he must have killed it and dragged it up into the tree and probably even finished killing it while it was up in the tree. Look, he's even grooming himself now. That's very cool. Hello, boy. Nice to meet you. Yes. You've been a treat this afternoon. You've really relaxed quite nicely, haven't you? Now, I don't know if Sydney's had not much luck. Maybe he will come back and can sit with Hosana, because we got no view of Hosana. Hosana's quite far from where we are now. So it might be quite nice to have both of our vehicles actually around, so we can stay with this fella, and Sydney can maybe then come and have a look at Hosana if he wants to, because, like I say, there's no way we can see Hosana from where we are now. We've creeped so far that the bushes are all blocking it, and if Hosana moves, we're going to have no idea if he does. And it's just us here. So, Lou, if you want to let Sydney know, he's welcome to come join me and can go and sit with Hosana a few hundred meters away. Now, I want to just see. There we go. Look, he's just putting his head over that branch. Hello, boy. Now you can see that bit of that lazy kind of right eye, that chunk out of his right ear, a bit of that sort of scrape under the right eye as well, that scar, and we can actually get a much better view of him. That's very cool. Hello, boy. Are you going to stretch now? Did you not notice that we were here? Well, let's see what he gets up to. I wonder if it's maybe Hosana that's moving also behind us. I can't see. Anyway, let's send you across to Sydney, who's got some antelope that I'm sure Hosana would love to eat. In the meantime, we'll carry on watching this fella.
I've just come across a very big group of the waterbucks. This is the biggest group of waterbucks I have seen here in Djuma. They are more than 15, I think there's plus or minus 20 waterbucks here at the moment. Look at that. So the waterbucks, they are still together with the zebras nearby, just by the fire break. So it seems like when the wind is too much like this, they don't feel comfortable to be in the thick bushes. So they want to come here by the open spaces. Maybe the predators prefer to predate them when the wind is too much like this. Zebras are also not very far away together with them. You can see these two, they need each other when there is this kind of a weather condition. Quite a lot of males here in this group. The waterbucks, I have seen that there's quite a lot of youngsters having males, and zebras, all of them as well. They look very big, no youngsters. So the waterbucks, when it's dry like this, they also feed on droppings of the animals such as baboons. And zebras on the other side, when they've got new babies, they eat droppings of their mothers in order to get the digestive bacteria. So these two species are the species that are highly interested on eating droppings. One waterbuck eats droppings of the others, which is called an allocaprophagic behavior. Caprophagias are the animals that feed on droppings. Allocaprophagy is an animal that feed on the other one's droppings. Autocaprophagy is done by the scrub hares and the rabbits, which defecate and eat their own droppings. So here we've got the two species that are highly interested on droppings. Imagine the waterbuck feeding on the droppings of the baboons. The baboon droppings don't smell nice, but despite that smell, waterbuck eat it when there is food shortage. So now I will be carrying on. I'll be carrying on now much more towards the area where there is some spotted cats, and see if maybe we can meet something in this road down towards Twins Dam. So now let's go back to Tristan.
Well, it seems as though Hosanna was kind of looking in the distance. From Fukazi, he's kind of up and down, kind of watching Hosanna, and now he's kind of stretching at the moment. Let's see what he gets up to. Alright, boy, it's okay. He's kind of looking straight over at us, and his tail's twitching a little bit, so it's almost like he's not sure whether he wants to move or if he doesn't want to. He's kind of just taking it very easy at the moment. Now, Sydney's just calling me because I'm sure he wants to know where Hosanna is. Yeah, Sydney, if you just head to that termite mound off Pangolin track, Weaver's Nest, that's where Hosanna was. I don't know if he's going to move from there, though. It looks like he's going to head more to the east. So Mfakazi's kind of watching us, and I think he's not sure. I think he wants to kind of move, but he's also not 100% sure whether or not he needs to kind of get up and come down, or if he should stay up there with Hosanna being around. Like I say, Hosanna's been quite twitchy behind us. I actually can't see Hosanna at all anymore. I wonder if he maybe just moved off of that mound completely. So he's gone. He seems to have moved, and I think that's why Mfakazi stood up. You can see, look how he's looking into the distance. I don't see any sign of Hosanna at the moment, so I think if Sydney heads to that area, maybe Sydney can at least keep an eye on Hosanna, and we'll be able to kind of stay where Mfakazi is. I wouldn't be surprised he comes down, but look at that stare. Daggers could kill, huh? But he's quite an interesting cat, this. It's different to a lot of the other cats we've seen in that, you know, he has his motives of being here. It's not like Hukumuri's who's coming in to try and settle down. It seems in his case, he's just kind of passing through, which is very, very different to most leopards, but still amazing to see. It's always a good day when you get to see a different leopard and a new leopard. I love kind of spending time with these guys and seeing how they get up, or what they get up to, and the more leopards you see in your life, well, the better, I can tell you. Look at that. It's very cool. And I'm impressed, like I say, at how he's let us get as close as we have. I honestly didn't believe that we would get anywhere near as close as we've gotten this afternoon, and I think it's just because it's starting to get a little bit darker, and like I say, with Hosanna being around, I think it's more part that he wants to keep his kill and doesn't want to lose it, and so he's going to sit on top of it and make sure that Hosanna knows that he's still around and that he's still got the kill for himself. So I think that's why he's kind of let us get as far as we can, and it's a good thing. The more we spend time with him, like I say, the better it is. The more he's going to learn that we're not here to chase him, we're not here to take his food. He's happy to feed on it on his own, and he can do what he wants, and you know, we're not going to disturb him. And so a carcass like this is vitally important in relaxing a leopard. The more that you can do this, and the more time you spend, and the patience that you show, this will ultimately pay dividends later on. Even though he's an older leopard, it's still possible to get, you know, him used to cars, particularly our cars. You must remember, our cars are different to all the others. They don't look the same. They have a much smaller appearance, and you know, it's always a good thing to try and get a leopard used to things. And so maybe he'll start to get used to us if we just spend time with him like this over the course of the few days. Now, Tom, as I was saying earlier, he's probably around, we suspect, I mean, no one knows for sure, but we think he's around 7-8 years old. Could be a little bit older, but that's roughly kind of, given the photos and the history that we can find of him going in the past, that's kind of where it looks like his age is. But difficult to say 100%, but that's what it kind of looks at, and looks like. And so, you know, he's a much older individual, and you know, it's by now should have had a territory that he was holding and using, effectively marking, vocalizing, and we know that he doesn't do either of those. So, you know, it's interesting. I mean, where he's come from and how he kind of creeps through these areas without Tingana and Hukumuri giving him trouble is anyone's guess. But there we go. You're going to calm down. Looks like he's got a bit of a bump on his front paw there, doesn't it? It looks like you have a bit of a notch there. Now, I think he's trying to work out how he's going to lie down. He's also sniffing. Probably the scent of Hosanna on that branch as well. So he's just having a little sniff as he's going about it. Now, I want to see if he puts his front paw forward again. Is that bump there? Yes, look at that. There's a big bump on his leg. I wonder what happened there. Maybe he's got a little abscess under the skin at the moment. It does happen sometimes that they do get it. He looks like he's putting pressure on it, so it doesn't seem to be too bad. Island grandma, well, it's just genetics. Some leopards get big dewlaps, some don't. So, Tingana's got a massive dewlap, and other leopards that we see out here don't really get big ones like Mfokazi. So it's just a genetic thing. I mean, obviously most males develop one as they get older, but, sometimes some of them are not too big at all. There was an old male that I've seen down in the south of the Sabi Sands. He had quite a small dewlap, even though he was absolutely ancient. His teeth were worn, his ears were tattered, but his dewlap was tiny. And so, you do get males that have those kind of characteristics. So it's not always just to do with, age. It's also a genetic thing as to how big the dewlaps can get. And you see, he's not even facing us anymore. That's absolutely amazing. So it seems like he's not worried about our presence, which is fantastic. It's what I wanted, is for him to just, be quite relaxed. And if he's turning his back like that, then his problem is not with us. He's more wary of what's around him, and probably hearing things like hyenas and the likes. That's probably giving him a little bit more of a uncomfortable feeling that they might attract others rather than actually us, which is cool. Right, I'm going to try see if I can just position slightly better for VM so it's not so bright behind him, and we can get the IR lights to work a little bit better. And so while we do that, let's send you back across to David, who's traversing the Mara.
Hizi zinakimbia kushoto, hizi ziko mbali. Hizi zinakimbia kushoto. Hizi zingekuwa maridadi hizo. Look at that. Look at that. How fantastic.
Now, apparently David is battling a little bit with comms, and so we're just slowly creeping up forward towards where Mfokazi is sitting, and so far he's okay. He's not actually worried. We're almost right next to him now, and he's just posing ever so beautifully. Look at that. So he's sitting there absolutely fine with us. Isn't that a beautiful sight? Hello, boy. Are you not too worried about us? Are we okay here? Seems like it. It seems like he's going to let us just sidle up to him and sit, and he's watching kind of into the distance. There's a few hyenas lying around, as we would imagine, so that would be the case, and he's just kind of sitting there and is not even paying us any attention. Look at that. So that's probably the best view that we're going to get of him. We can now see all of these kind of markings and see what's going on. Now Sydney's once again calling me. Yeah, go ahead, Sydney. But look at that. That's very cool. It's a bit battered up, unfortunately. Now, Sydney says not sure where Hosanna is. Yeah, Sydney, I've lost visual of Hosanna. He came off the termite mound at the junction of Pangolin Track and Weaver's Nest. So I don't know if you want to take Pangolin Track, you might find him again. I'm just still sitting with this other male. So it sounds like my radio is breaking up too much, Louise. I don't know if you can just relay the message, please, because you would have heard exactly what I said, and hopefully Sydney can hear that. We seem to have a major radio issue today. I don't know why. Our radios are being funny. Maybe it's the wind that's in the air. But look at that. He's kind of just taking it very easy. He's found himself quite a comfortable spot. It's almost like he's leaning back and just taking it as easy as one could ever imagine. He's kind of got his little sort of wall that he's leaning on and taking it very easy. Now, there's not much of that impala left, actually, between the two leopards that are fed off it. It seems as though there's, quite a bit of damage has actually been done to it. There's far more than I thought would have been done by the end of the day, but Hosanna likes to eat, and I'm pretty sure this boy has had a good feed as well during the course of the day as things have gone. So very, very cool indeed. Lindsay, no. I mean, maybe, I don't know. You know, wild animals, I don't think care if we talk to them. In terms of who we are and what we say is irrelevant. Obviously, they don't understand what I'm saying. But I think the way that you speak is obviously, and the loudness and the tone that you're using is probably going to help with being able to reassure an animal that you're not a threat. If I had to come in here and shout and scream and make a lot of noise, then I'm pretty sure he wouldn't take kindly to that and would probably be quite nervous. But you know, if you keep your sort of voice down and you don't make too many fast movements and don't shuffle around in the car too much and you just take it fairly easy, then, you know, in all likelihood you'll actually get a fairly decent sighting out of it and they'll relax a lot quicker. The more noise you make, the more kind of uncomfortable they'll become in a shy animal. In this case, you know, we've slowly crept up and we've been here for over an hour and a half now. And we've gone from 100 meters to 80 meters to 70 to 60, 50, and we've just gradually closed the distance, talking the whole time, and so it's becoming normal for him to kind of feel that we're a part of this environment and we're in no way chasing him or trying to steal his food. And so hopefully that's why he's starting to get a little bit more relaxed with our presence. I have a funny feeling this morning, I don't think he's the most unrelaxed leopard that there is. I certainly think that there's worse leopards out there. I think that a lot of what's happened this morning was a case of hyenas, different area, new vehicle he's never seen before. Hosanna maybe was around and we just didn't see him, but obviously maybe he could from up in the tree, and all of those combinations and factors led to him being a little bit panicked, and that's why he ran. And now, you know, he's decided everything is okay and all is good. Right, while we enjoy being in the company of this beautiful male, let's send you across to David, who has now got his comms sorted out, and I believe he is in the company of the migration.
I had a bit of technical issues, but we are back in business now, me and James. We're watching this wildebeest munching grass. And earlier when we started, most of them were like standstill, under shades, laying down, or just standing up, doing nothing practically apart from looking around. But it has cooled off tremendously now, and for that reason, they have every reason to start eating, and they may keep eating until maybe 10, 11 o'clock at night. And from where I am, I can only hear Not sure you can hear that. And that's what happens when we are talking of migration. It looks like a little carpet of wildebeest that have a few dots of zebras here and there. Always making a very good gel, the two species of animals. You notice they tend to go to the grass that's much shorter, not the tall grass. The tall grass is called red oat grass. It's more or less not dead, but dry, I would say, and not of much nutrition value. And if you look carefully, none of them is bothered by that grass. But if you'd have been here, I would say a few months ago, you'd see what I would call a sea of tall grass, high tall grass. But as much as these wildebeest or the zebras will not eat it mainly, they just trample on it as they move around. And then what is left is a lot shorter ground, giving advantage to the termites to turn around what is left by these animals as they make the masses or as they move down towards Serengeti, which I think they're slowly turning a little bit, I would say, towards the south. Richie, I mean, this is true. We were just watching some two lionesses or two sisters having a dinner party. But, yes, I agree with you. The wildebeest are having a dinner party. And it's about what? It's about almost 7 o'clock East African time. And that's very normal time for people to have dinner. And that's exactly what these zebras and wildebeest are doing. I'll not be shocked like this time around as it gets dark. You notice now we are watching this wildlife with infrared. It's the same time also lions could easily come and sneak on them. Cats being better to see at night than these herbivores. But if we compare the two, the zebras and the wildebeest, I would think the zebras tend to see much better at night than the wildebeest. Not sure how to explain that, but anytime I meet them at night and I switch off the light of the car, you'll notice the zebras can read or pick the vehicle very easily than the wildebeest. Sometimes the wildebeest comes so close to the car, and I mean that could be my explanation of saying zebras to me see much better at night than the wildebeest. For those who are joining us now, we're in the Mara Triangle in Kenya, and the species of zebras you're watching there is what we call the common zebra, or the Bachel zebra, or the plains zebra. We got a different species further north of Kenya that's called the gravy zebra, and the gravy zebra have much narrower stripes than this one here. Mr. Public, I think that's a tricky question, and I would say they do sound more or less the same. But to me, the males are more vocal than the females. The males are more vocal than the females, and especially when you see or you notice the males chasing the females, I would say more or less the same, because you hear something like and I was asking my camera operator what they mean. Hello. By that, and he told me it's the confusion they usually have of either going either north or south, east or west, because once in a while, Mr. Public, you might see the wildebeest, like about 10,000 of them moving in one direction, and all of a sudden making a U-turn and going back where they were coming from. And James says that's like north, south, east, west. And yeah, but as I said earlier, the males tend to be more vocal than the females. They're more louder than the females. When it comes to chasing the females, either for mounting or just having a bit of play, you'll see the males running all over. Well, hopefully, Mr. Public, we might be able to see that on our way out, and we'll show you why I'm saying the males are more vocal than the females. Alrighty, keep eating, enjoy yourselves. Watch out, the lions are not very far from here, because the Owino Pride of 5, I'll not be surprised if they go for another kill tonight or early tomorrow morning. So we'll keep keeping on, and my lights on, not to drive in a barrow of a hyena or of a warthog or a boulder or rock, or drive over a dead trunk in the grass. Righty, we'll take you across to South Africa, and I guess to Sydney maybe?
No, not Sydney, David, but close, don't worry. We managed to get ourselves very, very close to this leopard. It is so, so cool. So just above me right now is where he is at the moment. He has now become kind of very chilled with us. Look, he's just leaning back. Every now and then his eyes even start to close a little bit, and it's an epic view of this leopard against this kind of stormy, windy sky behind him. It really is quite pleasant. Now, I apologize about the wind if it's still bad in my microphone. It's not really much we can do in the way that we parked at the moment. The wind is going to be howling, but look at that. He's kind of starting to fall asleep. Hello, boy. That is so cool. There's something about spending the whole afternoon just trying to edge a little bit more, and eventually kind of being accepted and allowed to come as close as we've gotten has been quite special. So we are so fortunate that we're managing to kind of get these views of him. I doubt we could ask for anything better at this stage. You know, it obviously was a bit tricky this morning with Sydney, and then this afternoon we didn't want to push him in any way whatsoever, and now we've managed to get ourselves into the kind of best possible position that we could ask for, and he's absolutely chilled with us being here, which is wonderful. Look at that. Roberts, no, not as far as I know. I mean, I don't know of any particular theories as to where he's come from or kind of what he's been up to and what his history is and how far he's traveled. It's obviously quite difficult, but he's not a Sabi sand leopard as far as we know. It seems like he's maybe come out of potentially the Kruger, Timavati, that area, and then through the Manyeleti, kind of down towards where we are now. But difficult to say. I mean, if you look at somebody like Hukamuri and how far he ended up moving, it's very possible that he could have gone same sort of distance of 200-300 kilometers from north of Kruger, east of Kruger. It's very difficult for us to know exactly where he could be. So, at this stage we don't know 100% where he came from, but I know that a lot of people have looked and tried to find younger photos of him, but so far no luck as yet as to where he could possibly have kind of come from at this stage. We don't know, and he's a bit of a mystery, which is always nice. A bush mystery is always good. And like I say, it's very cool to make an acquaintance of a new leopard and kind of see him around. As long as he doesn't chase Hosanna, I'm all good with him being around every now and then. But you can see his right eye's got a bit of damage to it. Even when he closes them, that right eye still stays a little bit open. And I believe some of you were noticing that he's got a big bump on his neck as well. So I wonder if maybe he hasn't had a bit of a run-in with a number of different leopards in his life. Either way, he still looks physically quite fit, though. He doesn't exactly look as though he's too kind of small or like he's got thin or around the hips or anything like that. His belly's fairly full and his general coat condition is very good, so he seems to be healthy, other than a few kind of minor bumps and bruises around the body and obviously a few scars that have probably dictated why he's not become a dominant male. He's maybe been beaten up a little bit as time has gone on. Now I see that Sydney is kind of driving Weaver's Nest Road. We had squirrels alarm calling, so I don't know if maybe Sydney's kind of can just keep checking that area. That's the last time we saw Asano, was where Sydney came past. Lou, if you want to just let him know. Unfortunately I can't with the radio the way it is, so he's kind of in the right area. If he maybe just turns back up towards Weaver's Nest or Pangolin Track, he might get lucky and check around that area. There's quite a few things going on in that area. He's definitely moved from the termite mound where he was. GG evidently not. So given that he's got his backside firmly planted on that of a female impala, the bump on his leg seemingly does not interfere with his hunting in any way whatsoever. He's seemingly able to pull down a rather large carcass, and you can see he's kind of looking around now. It might be because there's another car in the area. I suspect that he's probably a one vehicle cat at the moment at this proximity. I don't think we could probably squeeze too many more cars in this area. I think he's pretty chilled with the fact that there's one car, but as soon as maybe 2 or 3 are added, they maybe make him a little bit more nervous as to what's going on. So we just try and kind of figure out exactly whether or not he's comfortable. He seems alright though. He's not kind of standing up. He's still kind of got his backside down, and that's always a good thing. But obviously with that front end, if there starts to be a little bit of an issue and starts to be a bit of a kind of swelling that increases and there's a bit more kind of build-up of fluids in there, maybe it could potentially start hampering his hunting. But for now I don't think so. For now I think you've got a situation where he's probably in all likelihood kind of all right, and like I say, he's caught this impala, and so it seems as though he's perfectly fine. Oh, beautiful though, isn't it? He's a bit beaten up, isn't he? His ears are a bit scarred too. I wonder what things he's seen. I actually think he might be older than we even think. He might even be closer to sort of 9, 10. His ears are showing quite a lot of damage. You can see that, especially that right ear. He definitely is. Courtney, I doubt it. So while Tingana is very tolerant of Hosanna at this stage, he knows that that's his son and that he doesn't need to worry as much, whereas this is a rival male. This is much like Hukamuri or potentially another rival like Quarantine or something like that. And so I doubt Tingana will be impressed to see a leopard like this, and I'm pretty sure this male would run away from Tingana. While Tingana is not in his prime and he's starting to get older, he's still a massive individual and is really in good condition at the moment. Now it seems like he's all of a sudden gotten a lot more alert, doesn't it? It's kind of staring off into that sunset that's gone down, but he looked a little bit more wide-eyed all of a sudden. Don't see anything. Maybe it's just a hyena that's milling about somewhere in that area. Alright, boy. You're just readjusting. He's kind of got himself sitting on this branch and leaning on another one. I'm worried that that one branch is going to break though, and he's going to end up falling on his side, but so far he seems to have managed just fine. Right, now while we sit with Mfokazi, it sounds like Sydney's had some success and has managed to find Hosana not too far away.
You can see that now I have got the little chief. So the little chief is in the area here, not very far away from where Mfokazi is. Mfokazi, who is now busy enjoying his meal from this morning with Tristan on the other side. So you can see that Hosana is now just lying down, looking at that direction. I don't think Hosana has got quite a lot to worry about, as it was not his kill. Look at that. This is quite a beautiful cat. He looks very much concerned. Jima, the Mfokazi looks much bigger than Hosana, and the spots as well for Mfokazi, they are much more yellow. So you can see that this cat is just focusing towards one direction, and he is not even thinking about anything else except the meat. He's thinking about the prey now. It's better, I think, Hosana, you go and do your own hunting. He gave up on me. Yeah, maybe he's going to learn now that if you lose a kill, if your kill is taken by the other animal, you must go back and fight for it. He was given all the time during the day to have lunch, but now, dinner time, the owner of the kill is back. You can see that he managed to eat a lot. You can see the stomach is full there. Look at that. I don't think it's fair for Hosana to worry about Mfokazi back to the kill, because the stomach looks big already. So now you can see it's resting time. Yeah, you can see that Hosana is still looking very good. No scratch, nothing. So, but as time goes on, you will see when he's starting to defend his territory, when he's starting to defend his carcass, is when we will see quite a lot of scratches developing. Yeah, this is quite a lovely sighting. Two spotted cats in the same area at the same time. And with one unusual, it makes it much more interesting. No, that is true. Hosana wants to get everything at the same time. But I think that kill this morning, when I found Mfokazi, after Mfokazi got disappeared, Hosana was battling to even lift up the food up into a tree. That was a big impala. It's not his size. So you can see that he doesn't want to hunt at all. So him and the hyena are at the same page. They all want leftovers today. So I think Osana at this stage is, he doesn't have to get used to the leftovers. He's still very young and he must have to hunt. He still have got a long way to go. So he will reach that stage, but not now. So now let's go back to the Masai Mara. Dave is now driving in the darkness looking for something. Maybe he's gonna find one of the nocturnal animals.
I have decided now to drive very slowly because darkness has come, and by driving slowly, if I would hear hyenas, lions lowering, or maybe likely bush babies, which I have not had for quite some time, I can easily pick them up and stop and drive to that direction. Those are the animals I'm counting on to hear and maybe catch before we end the drive. But in the meantime, I just want to stop here and show you how dark it is at the moment. You will stop there and switch off my lights, and you can tell I didn't mean to do that. Let's see whether we can hear anything. I can only hear crickets, some tree frogs, I guess they are frogs, maybe tree frogs, and that's more or less like it. But again, as I said earlier, the whole idea of driving slowly and listening is to pick any call that you might get. This will be my plans as we slowly get or head home. James is already thinking of dinner very early, I don't know why. And tomorrow I'll come and find out where these other two, or rather three members of the Oino Pride have gone. Sorry, Lou. Exactly, and when it gets to this hour, it's always not bad time to start thinking of dinner. I'm not sure I have seen a jackrabbit somewhere. Let's find out. I haven't seen one in a long time around this area. James, if you look like straight on 12 o'clock, oops. Let's see if we can get a little closer. There's one right there, James. Let's see whether we'll be lucky to see her, or is she gonna take off? So if you punch right there, James, see whether you can see her. There's a bush, or rather a jackrabbit somewhere. Very good. Hello, jackrabbit. Look at her ears, huge ears, big eyes. The ears are like an antenna. Excellent. Good to hear that, Lou. That's a great sighting. Lou says from the final control. She's just still there. They tend to be more active at night than during the day. In the day, they'll either stay in the burrows, keeping cool. When the temperatures drop, they come out, either feeding on grass or digging tubers or roots of grass. And you can see she's trying to listen to me, and I'm trying to be as soft as possible. And wondering who is talking. Oops, she took off. Where did she go? Oh, that was not bad sighting. I haven't seen a jackrabbit for quite some time. A scrub hare, rather. Very good. She's just in front of us in the road crossing. Wow, that's nice to see the scrub hare this hour. I haven't seen one on this road for quite some time, but I think Tristan has a more important predator down in South Africa.
Well, I think so too, and it's a beautiful picture of him up on the tree at the moment. So there's a couple of cars that are wanting to come into this area, and there's one car that's with us, and it's why we've got our light on. Rather than having a big bright spotlight into him, we've just got a nice little soft kind of gentle spread floodlight instead, which is lighting him up beautifully against this dark blue sky, and also is far less intrusive on his eyes, particularly because it looks like that one eyelid just can't close at all. And so instead of the other shining spotlights, which would really impact our infrared, we've trying to kind of help everybody out and do a little bit of a better job in terms of using a bit of a flood rather than a spot. And it seems to be working nicely. But look, he's going to sleep now. So you can see there's a membrane that closes over his eye, but his eyelid itself does not close properly. Now, that can be quite dangerous for a cat. It can cause a lot of issues with their eyes. It can cause permanent damage. The sun obviously is not good for an eye, and obviously they also get dust and dirt and all kinds of things, particularly when it's windy. So probably has a lot of issues with that eye. It's not ideal. At least there's a bit of a membrane that closes, but his eyelid is definitely damaged, that it doesn't close properly. So there we go, he's fallen asleep. So even though you can still see a glint on that membrane, he is actually closing his eyes completely as much as he possibly can at this stage. And it's quite creepy that he's sleeping with his eye open. It gives a new meaning to sleeping with one eye open, doesn't it? But how cool is that, that he's eventually gotten to the point where he has fallen asleep when we are within 10 meters of him and talking. Nancy, I wonder, it's quite an interesting thing to think about. I haven't seen him do it, and we don't know much about him, but I suppose in time we're going to gather some intel and see whether or not he does put a paw over his eye when he wants to sleep. But it seems as though for now he doesn't. But you can see his claw sticking out there too, which is quite cool. So he's got one of his claws kind of poking out. It's probably the way that his sort of front leg is resting over that branch. It's just causing a bit of oppression, pulling that tendon and exposing that claw a little bit. But his claws are quite sharp, looking fairly good. They're quite brown in color, which would indicate a little bit of age. I would like to actually see his mouth open, try and see his teeth a little bit. That would also be quite useful for an age indication to know exactly kind of how old he is. But he seems like a sleepy cat, and it can't be a very comfortable position that he's in. It doesn't look comfortable at all. You need to learn from the leopard that's with you here, Mfokazi. You need to get yourself a meat pillow rather than a meat couch. You need a meat pillow for your head, because you're kind of using it the wrong way around. If you put that on your sort of head side, it'll be far more comfortable than if it's on your legs. So you'll have to learn from the youngsters and the new kids on the block. Shame. It was very cute though. It was very cool to see, and I'm thoroughly stoked that we're all happy that we managed to get as close as we have and to get a picture like that. Isn't that beautiful? I think it's beautiful. I think that blueness and him kind of just sitting in the boughs of that marula is as good as we could have asked for, and he really is taking it very easy. Now, unfortunately, like I said just now, there are a number of cars that do want to come here to have a look at him, just because he's obviously relaxed a little bit, and so we're going to try and limit the number of cars here and that there's not too much movement and chase him. And so I'm going to leave and allow then one other car to come in, and we'll just rotate the cars one by one through this little area. So it's been very cool to spend time with him, but unfortunately that's going to be the end of the evening for us. And so while we do that, let's send you across to Sydney, who's still sitting with little Hosanna.
So Hosanna is still here waiting for a chance in order to go and have something to eat, but I don't think that chance will come, as Tristan indicated on the other side, that Mfokazi is very much relaxed at the moment, not thinking about going anywhere. So Hosanna will have to just sleep here and tomorrow morning carry on and do his own hunting activities. And let's hope if he catch something, Mfokazi doesn't come back and take it. So Mfokazi might also come and take Hosanna's kill one day. So you can see that these cats are not interested in going to the water holes today, as also on the other side, Mfokazi didn't go to the water hole. Hosanna is here as well all day long, has not been yet to the water hole. Rose, these kind of leopards can sleep long hours, more or less the same as the lions. It can go up to 18, sometimes 20 hours. They are just more active now during the dusk and during the dawn. just for a few hours, and after that they sleep. So, but they are very good because when the weather is right, they can wake up during the day and try to have something. It's getting very, very cold here at the moment. When I started, it was very, very hot, but the weather suddenly changed, and now here is so very, very cold. So that's why now I am using my blanket, as I didn't bring my jersey tonight because I thought it was going to be warm until late evening. You can see that Hosanna doesn't look like an animal. Maybe I must burn some elephant dung for heat. Now the elephant dung, yes, they work. You can burn them as coals for heat, but now in the vehicle and when it's windy like this can be very dangerous. We are still at the fire season. This is still the spring, not yet heavy rains in the area, so it can be very dangerous to the environment if the grasses catches fire. So because of this amount of wind, you can see that these cats are not even worried. They are not concentrating from the ears, because this wind is disturbing them. Mostly the leopards, they keep moving their ears, but now the ears are just quiet. So the back legs we are seeing there, he might walk up at any time, but if you look, those hind legs we are seeing there is the one with all the powers. So for these kind of cats to propel in order to climb trees, these are the legs which are helping. Imagine this kind of an animal climbing a tree holding an impala, which is so very heavy. So they need quite a lot of strength. There is now about to wake up. So it seems like he is listening to what the viewers are saying. And look at that. Maybe he's going to wake up now so that we can be able to see what he is thinking. His focus is still there. Maybe you could see that Mfokazi is still maybe in the area. You can see that he is still very much interested to eat that impala. So he's used to eat the duikers and the baby nyalas. So maybe the impala tastes much better than those. So that's why he's not giving up. So now let's go back to the Masai Mara, where Dave is just driving, looking for something interesting at the moment. You can see now that Hosanna is changing his side. Now he's sleeping facing that side, as if he's now sleeping by the bed. Not even moving at all, as if he has been sleeping here for the past many hours. But he was up just now. It doesn't look like the same animal we saw now. Ziva, that is true. Hosanna is thinking about how to get hold of the food, but I'm sure that he is worried about the owner of the food, as he already caused quite a lot of damage. Maybe it was not too easy for Hosanna as well to leave that area. So the thing is, I saw this morning at the sighting that Hosanna was sniffing all the areas where Mfokazi was. And from sniffing, Hosanna can be able to tell the amount of strength Mfokazi is having. So he knows very well how dangerous Mfokazi can be at the moment. Without having a fight, he knows about the violent status of Mfokazi at this stage. So now let's go back to David, who has found something very, very interesting by the Masai Mara at the moment.
Well, my apologies there. I do not know what happened and had gremlins, but all looks good. And I was talking about, earlier talking about a savo cat I saw around this area, and I was trying to race and see whether I could catch up or could see it today. But it's not there. But instead of seeing a savo cat, what I think I can see from a distance, it's a giraffe. We are in infrared now, and when we use infrared, we usually make sure we do not interfere or influence animals' behavior. And I know James is magic when it comes to camera work. So James will let me know what's the best angle, but there. Let's see what you can do, James, from there. See what you can get. Just try. But it will be interesting to see a giraffe in that kind of... Well done. Couldn't be better. Excellent work. Haven't seen giraffes for quite some time. I think the last 2 days I've not seen a single giraffe. And that too looks like a young boy. And you can see all the evidence under the belly there. Hello, youngster. Where are your friends? And you can see the two ossicons. Yeah, I'm sure, yeah, doing the final control. He's enjoying to see this. And he's listening, not sure it's me, which would translate to me being a bit softer. We can't see the normal brown color or the beige color we see in giraffes during the day because we are using infrared. And as I said earlier, it's for the respect we have for these animals. But he has an idea, this one around, because he can see the infrared. He is not sure where we are, which is pretty good. If I was a giraffe, I would be happy to be treated the same. And as much as you can see the pattern clearly, this is the Maasai giraffe. That's a good sign of being comfortable with us. Once he drops down and starts eating. Giraffe girl, you are very welcome. You are very welcome, giraffe girl, and especially to know that you have noted for the last 2 days we have not seen giraffes in the Mara. Well done. You are such a great watcher. You are such a great viewer. We respect you very much. Thank you for that. And yes, I was also telling James, where have the giraffes gone? I'm happy you're enjoying that one there, giraffe girl. And I'm also sure you know this is the Maasai giraffe. Giraffes being browsers, definitely he is not eating grass. He is pulling up a small little bush or plant there and enjoying the leaves of it. Grab some, chew, then maybe swallow. Look at her long neck when she's in that angle. It's like longer than the part of the body, from the forequarters to the hindquarters. Sandy natural giraffes of enemies, I would only say lions. Lions have been known to bring down baby giraffes. And when we say it's the green season, when we do not have the bump harvest, if I may call that, the migration in the Mara of the wildebeest and the zebras, and there is limited choice of prey for the lions, they have been known to go for big prey. I'm talking about elands, buffaloes, and also the giraffe. So let's say the only natural enemies we have for giraffes are lions, but occasionally, way back, man, used to also be another enemy, and I would call him a natural enemy. And to get the giraffe.
Look at that. You can see that now Hosanna is still aiming at someone's food, because he has just moved now and walked a couple of meters, and I can see that his whole concentration is there. So he doesn't want to go and look for food for himself. He just wants to depend on Umfokazi for a day. So the return of Umfokazi in the area benefited Hosanna the most this afternoon. So he has been the beneficiary. Jim, I am not sure about the amount of leopards we have got here in the Sabi Sand. That is something I've got to go and check. So when I come back tomorrow, I will be knowing the total number of all the leopards here in Sabi Sand, if there is any record. So I hope Tingana's gonna also come to the same area. I don't know what is going to happen if Tingana decide to come to this area, as Tingana as well, when there's food available, all he wants is just food. I don't know what is going to happen to Umfokazi if Tingana comes here. So I can see that Hosanna is just keep watching all the signs. I'm not sure if Hosanna already picked up that someone is coming in the area. So the problem is difficult to see, to hear the saw, as you can see now is looking. The wind is too much, so we can't hear very well who's coming from where. So it has been quite a very lovely afternoon with quite a lot of buffaloes and quite a lot of cat sightings. The new sighting of Umfokazi as well as Hosanna, our usual cat in the area. All these sightings made this day a great day, and thank you very, very much for all your questions and comments. Let's meet again tomorrow morning.